I pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're here for the Marion County Commission meeting, February 14th. We're beginning at 10 o'clock with a work session on the bond charter resolution discussion. We have Dave Atterbury with us and also Mitch Walter. So,
this conference will now be recorded.
I'll start over.
Okay.
All right.
That's okay.
Welcome everyone to the Marion County Commission, February 14th. We're starting with the work session on the bond charter resolution discussion. We have Dave Atterbury with us and also Mitch Walter. So we appreciate you both being with us. If you want to come up to the hot seat, that way the microphone can record and we're ready to gather more information.
Okay. Well, thank you. David Atterbury again with Stiefel Nicholas. It's a pleasure to be here again to talk a little bit about your potential road improvement projects and possibly associated bond issue. I know last time I was here I kind of went through the process that if you wanted to proceed with issuing bonds for road projects that you need to go through, and talked a little bit about the mill levy impact. I'd be happy to kind of go over any of that stuff that I went through before with you, but the action item that you have in front of you today is consideration of a charter resolution that would begin the process of actually authorizing you to issue bonds for the project. And I don't mean to catch Mitch off guard, but I'd probably defer to Mitch to kind of debrief you on exactly what this charter resolution is and is not doing for you. So.
Very good. Yep.
Sure.
Let's start with the resolution.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what this charter resolution does and does not do is that it allows the county to issue general obligation bonds to finance the costs of a paving project under KSA 68580. What it allows by charter is that the county has the option to bypass the otherwise applicable election requirement for the issuance of bonds. The charter, or the act, is not uniformly applicable to cities and counties, therefore it makes it subject to charter under Kansas law. So we've identified this statute as an avenue through which a county can issue bonds for paving projects that are a little bit larger in nature than a one that's going to be down below a couple $100,000 or something like that. We have provided this to numerous other counties across the state, and it has been used to issue bonds to finance larger county paving projects. The way that we typically set the resolution up is to provide the county with flexibility as to how it would like to determine or how it would like to proceed. If effective, the charter would allow the issuance or the authorization of bonds by a simple majority resolution. It would allow the county to opt to make the issuance of the bonds subject to notice and protest, similar to how the county's otherwise applicable paving statute would operate, or it would give the county the option to subject the issuance of the bonds to an election. So there's sort of three options that are provided within the statutory framework. Maybe it'd be helpful to talk a little bit about the county's otherwise applicable option to authorize bonds for road projects. The otherwise applicable statute requires 3 publications of a resolution authorizing the issuance of the bonds, and then there is a 60-day protest period that's applicable to that resolution. That's for road projects. If the county would happen to have any bridge projects, those bonds can be authorized via simple majority resolution. I certainly don't know, because I can't speak for the legislature when the statutes were enacted, back in I believe it was the early 60s for this particular act. But I think the thought was that, well, we need to make bridges easier to authorize than road projects. I don't know if that's something that everybody would necessarily agree with, but what we've identified with this statute is basically, we'll put your paving projects on the same plane as your bridge projects in terms of your authority to finance them. So that's the alternative that the county has, and in front of it, if it chooses not to look at adopting the charter ordinance, is to authorize a paving project. You'd be looking at 3 publications and then a 60-day protest period. Also, if you would choose to use the otherwise applicable statutory framework, those county bonds would be subject to the county's limit on bond and indebtedness, which is 3% of the county's assessed valuation, which, 3% of an assessed valuation, those numbers can add up pretty quickly. By comparison, cities have a 30% bonded indebtedness limit, and counties have 3%. So it's not as if they're not treated the same, and that really has nothing to do with the credit quality of the debt that would be issued. It's just counties are subject to a 3% limit and cities are subject to a 30% limit. So by comparison, you can see if you have any sizable type of project and the bonds are subject to the debt limit, those can add up pretty quick. And under the statute, under the charter resolution, and under the underlying act that we were charter out of, the election requirement, bonds issued under 68-580 et sec are exempt from the bonded indebtedness limitation. That's not something that we're chartering out of. That's something that's already in the statute. All the county would be doing would be giving itself the option to bypass the election requirement should it choose to do so.
So the statute that we're basing this charter resolution on is one we could issue bonds on anyway, even if we don't do the charter.
You could, okay, so.
And it would still not be subject to the debt limit, but
Yes.
it would be subject to election.
Yes, that's exactly correct. There's a little bit of nuance. So if you don't use the charter resolution, you could issue the bonds under this statute, subject to an election, unless the amount of bonds that you would choose to issue is beneath a certain threshold. Then it would not be subject to an election requirement, but that number is not high enough in order for you to authorize the project that you're planning. So it otherwise would require an election, is correct.
Other questions?
Does this include building a building, maybe?
No, that would be a
Okay.
different statutory authorization, and county buildings are actually, just for the sake of the conversation, even a little bit more difficult to authorize just because of the existing statutory framework. So this is just purely for
Road and bridge.
road and bridge projects, correct?
But under the resolution, we still have to go through the 60-day.
Correct. The charter resolution would require 2 publications, and after which a 60-day protest period would run. And so assuming that you don't get a sufficient protest petition against the charter resolution, then you'd be authorized to issue the bonds subject to the charter after that time.
And then what's the level of the protest petition?
That's a good question.
2%.
It is 2% of the county voters who voted at the last preceding November general election.
Okay.
Or 100 electors, whichever is greater.
Sorry.
I don't have your turnout numbers in front of me.
It was high.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, of course, with the last
Well,
election being a presidential.
Okay. If it's based on the city school, it was low.
Sure.
But if it's based on the federal.
Right. And so that's not to say that you couldn't go through with the charter if you had a protest petition, but it would require an election on the question of whether the charter resolution should be effective.
And would the charter resolution affect future bond issues?
Well, the county would have this charter resolution on its books.
Right.
and it could use that same authority for future bond issuances. Keep in mind that everything is subject to the action of subsequent governing bodies.
Right.
And so a subsequent governing body could decide that they wanted to take it back off the books or could do something else with it. Like anything else, like most things that are political decisions, it's subject to future action.
So the charter resolution could be revoked at a later time.
Correct.
I guess maybe part of our thought process was this initial bond issue we're looking at is below the threshold, but we're thinking not to tie hands in future commissions. That gives the more flexibility in the future.
So does, if this went to an election, does that require a special election? Or can it be incorporated into a primary or general election?
No, that's a good question. It would be basically an election that's called under the generally applicable bond election statutes. And so you could have it at a special question election, or you could choose to have it in conjunction with a general election. So you'd have some flexibility on the timing there.
Other questions? You'd mentioned several other counties have already taken this action.
Yes. We've helped offhand 3 or 4 different ones in the last 7 or 8 years that I've been a part of it. I know there's been some other ones on that as well.
Well, in our bond discussion, we had heard it's becoming quite popular for counties to do bonds for roads.
It seems like over the last year or so that, you mentioned 3 or 4 over 7 or 8 years. It seems like over the last year or so, I've heard of 3 or 4 that have been looking to do road and bridge projects, just around the state, at least.
I think, without getting too far out over my polls, I would think a part of that is you have these road and bridge assets that they have, a useful life, and at some point in time, they need to be replaced and repaired. And sometimes those aren't always, small little projects as far as what's necessary in terms of infrastructure needs.
And there's efficiencies if you could pool some projects for
Right.
larger, you can get more efficient pricing on bids rather than piecemealing them all over time.
And again, I think Mitch touched on this, but just reiterate, this isn't, you're not, at this point, if you were to adopt the charter resolution, you wouldn't be committing yourself to issuing bonds. You would just be opening up that avenue for you, and you'd be taking subsequent steps to actually, after the notice and protest period is over, you'd be taking subsequent steps, at least a couple, to actually issue any bonds. So this is just sort of giving you would be giving you the authority to do it, but you'd be taking separate steps later to actually issue any bonds.
Now, I would think in this interest rate environment that we have now, and looking forward in the next year even, time could kind of be of the essence in order to finance these bonds at what we think they should be financing.
Spoken like a banker. Yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, when you're talking big bucks, a 1% increase is substantial.
Yeah, I'll just pass this out. I don't think I've provided this before, but this is just a graph of tax exempt bond rates, and it's the same index for both of the graphs, but the top index is the 30-year trend of interest rates, and then the bottom chart is the same index over the last year. And what you can see here is that, if you look at the top chart, even though interest rates have jumped up a little bit over the last month or so, you're still, really, really close to the 30-year lows in interest rates. So it's, it's obviously it's nice to issue bonds at the lowest possible time. You can never time the market perfectly, but you're still, in terms of historical interest rate levels, really close to the lows. And how long we'll stay that way, it's hard to speculate, but I know there's upward pressure, it seems like, on rates.
You know,
Don't think
it's
they
hard to outguess the Fed because, you know, they keep talking about 0.25%, and now a lot of economists are starting to talk about front loading.
Yeah.
So that means instead of 0.25%, it might be 0.75%.
Yeah, and as I understand it, at least from some conference calls we've had with some company economists, is that right now interest rates have probably built in the assumption that there will be about 4 or 5 increases in the short term, for the federal increased short-term interest rates 4 or 5 times over the next year. But there's also some speculation that might not even be enough, that there might be even more than that.
I think the Fed's about got their hands tied, they're about to the point where they have to raise.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm gonna back up to the timing, just to clarify for me, I know you made it, I thought you made it clear, but I'm still gonna ask again. If proceeding with the charter resolution, we need to proceed that to completion before we start the bond process?
What we could do, I don't mean to jump in,
Go ahead.
but what we could do is we could start the process of gathering information for the bond issue while the protest period is going on, so that when the protest period expires, we can quickly try to enter the market as soon as possible. We don't want to get too far out in front. We don't want to do anything that would cause you to incur any sort of dollar cost. Like, we wouldn't want to have a bond rating done before you get through that process. But we could start gathering some of the data for the offering document and that sort of thing.
Yes, that goes to Kent's comment, just to expedite the process as much as we can.
Yeah.
In moving forward.
Yeah, to try to get the sale completed as soon as possible
Yes.
after that period, the 60-day period is over.
For a project like this, you know, I think as far as just the issuance of the bonds, it's generally looking at about a 2 to 2.5 to 3 month process. And so you can kind of layer that on the back half of the charter charter resolution process to,
Yeah.
you know, usually save about a couple of weeks and months, something like that. Just like Dave said, whatever. Make sure you don't incur costs beforehand, but also be ready to roll at the time that your resolution is effective.
yeah, I think my thought process is, we talked about what roads to do the other day, but we had enough reserve to take care of those. I would, and it really doesn't involve you guys a lot, but for me to feel better about this, I need to know what roads we're going to do with this money and have those drawings ready to set in motion before we ever pull the trigger on a bond. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to actually issue bonds, we would have to identify the projects ahead of time and specifically authorize bonds for those projects. We have to be a little bit more specific than just X amount of bonds for, you know, paving projects in general. That wouldn't fly with the Attorney General's office.
And I think part of that process is he already has a geotech company coming out to do core samples on the main project where the majority of the bond funding would go to, so he can nail down, or the county engineer can nail down more specifically what that project will be.
Would it, before we had bonds, would there have to be bids put forward?
For the projects?
Yeah.
No, you wouldn't necessarily need to wait to take bids on the projects. You could wait to do that if you wanted to. But you know, you could go ahead and sell the bonds just based on estimated project costs. And to the extent that you have, you know, money left over, let's say some of the projects come in under estimate, then you could, and would want to talk to Mitch about this, conceivably add some additional projects to the borrowing so that you could use surplus bond proceeds to do other road improvements.
What we typically see would be you have an engineer's estimate in place, and then you use that to size the bond issue. And then at that point in time, you actually adopt a separate resolution authorizing the issuance of the bonds. And oftentimes, right in connection with that, then you take your bids for the project. And so you have a good idea of how much your actual costs are going to be, and then you can use that figure to size the bond issue. But if you think, as Dave mentioned, that you may have additional projects that you want to do, but you're not quite sure, we can always add additional projects into the size of the bond issue if you have remaining proceeds left over. So it's not as if they just have to sit there and go unused. But certainly nobody wants that.
There is another alternative, that instead of issuing long-term bonds right off the bat for the projects, you issue temporary notes, which are basically maybe a 1 or 2 year construction borrowing. And then when the projects are completed and you know the exact final costs, you then pay off that temporary note with a long-term bond issue. So if your project cost came in under estimate, you use some of that leftover money from the temporary note to help pay that note off and keep your bond issue size smaller. So that is another way you could approach it. The problem with doing that is that you're then delaying the issuance of those long-term bonds.
I'll say you're at the mercy of the interest rate environment.
Yeah, and you end up doubling up on some of the costs associated with issuing too. So it's a viable option to do, and we see cities use that approach when they have certain types of projects that they have to have the final cost figures in before they bond them. But so it can be done, but again, it delays the issuance of long-term bonds and leaves you subject to the market conditions at that time.
And I think the other question or discussion point I heard is maybe the county has some equity that it's considering adding to these projects. So, you know, if you come to a consensus on, okay, we're gonna, you know, issue X amount of bonds because we know the project is going to be at least that much, and then you fill in the rest with, you know, available funds. There's a lot of different ways to do it. So I guess the point we're trying to make in a roundabout fashion is the county has certainly a lot of flexibility that you choose to basically go about it in a way that makes the most sense for the county.
In your experience with other counties in the last couple of years, going through a protest period, has there been much in the way of issues with the taxpayer base?
We have not seen this particular charter be protested. I think there are a few reasons, without trying to, you know, put words in the mouth of you know, the electors in the various counties we've worked with. The charter is subject to notice and protest. The issuance of bonds for paving projects is also subject to notice and protest, but can be accomplished if those procedural steps are satisfied. The county can issue bonds for bridge projects that are not subject to notice and protest. And so basically, again, like what I said before, is this charter just allows the county to issue bonds for road projects in the same fashion that would be able to issue bonds for bridge projects.
And as far as protest petitions, I can't remember if I mentioned this before, but like Mitch was saying, I haven't seen anybody protest, you know, using this charter resolution for road projects. The one protest I can think of was a number of years ago for a city that was going through a similar process to fund a pool project. And that was something that I think was just a little bit more not viewed quite as an essential project as road and bridges. And that one got a petition that went to an election, and it was a successful election, but it did get a petition.
I can say anecdotally, I had the same experience with the city in a public building, but the threshold requirement for that protest, I think, was 11 voters. So, yeah, so they circulated it for, you know, a little bit, and they came back with it. But that election passed as well. So maybe not quite apples to apples there.
Yeah.
So this would require two protest periods before there was ever a bond.
No, it would be one
For
protest,
this.
yeah, because then if your charter is effective, then it's not subject to protest anymore. And so you can just authorize the issuance of bonds,
Okay.
subject to the act as amended by the charter.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Yeah,
Too.
I was hearing too,
Right.
because I thought if we were gonna issue a bond after that, you'd still have to have a protest.
I'm gonna publish it 2 times.
Yeah.
But you have to publish it.
Right, you publish the charter twice, and after the protest period starts after the second publication. I think where I may be confused was if you didn't use the charter and you just went under the otherwise applicable statute, those bonds under that statute would be subject to notice and protest.
So no matter what, there's a
Correct.
protest.
There's a political,
Very-
there's
well,
an
that's-
opportunity for political participation.
That's good. I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Mhm.
That public does have a voice.
And reiterate, the county, if the charter becomes effective, also has the ability to make the issuance of the bonds further subject to notice and protest, should it choose to do so. That's the statute basically provides 3 different options. 1, authorize bonds by simple resolution. 2, authorize bonds subject to notice and protest. Or 3, require the bonds to be subject to an election. So it gives the county the ability to bypass the election requirement, but it doesn't require the county to bypass, the otherwise applicable political processes, so.
So this charter resolution we have, I mean, it's been pre-done, basically allows for the most public input, right?
It allows the public to protest the charter, which is, of course, is a statutory requirement. And then, once the charter is effective, it allows the county the option to decide how it would like to proceed and what additional political checks it would like to put in place regarding the issuance of the bonds.
So, just to kind of give a summary, if the charter passes, there would really be 3 more steps that the county would need to go through to issue bonds. The first step would be adoption of a resolution to authorize bonds for particular projects. And that's what we were talking about before. You're gonna have to choose what projects you wanna do. And that's the resolution that if they wanted to, they
Yes.
could also make subject to
Correct.
another protest period.
Mhm.
So that would be that, and so that's what I typically refer to as the project authorizing resolution. Then you would have a resolution that would actually authorize bonds to be sold. So I call it like a go-to-market resolution. And sometimes that first resolution, the project resolution, and the go-to-market resolution can be done simultaneously, or they could be done separately. And then after you do those 2, then the bonds are structured and sold, and then there's a third and final bond resolution that you would pass that actually locks in the interest rates and officially issues the bonds. So those would be the 3, I think, remaining action items if you wanted to, after today, that if you wanted to issue bonds. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And generally speaking, that takes about 2 to 3 months. So if the county decides to move forward, we can certainly work on providing a draft calendar of events. But I think generally speaking, you're looking at probably, 4 months, 4 to 5 months, by the time you've got the actual bond proceeds in the county coffers to pay project costs. That's if you decide to move as quickly as, you can.
Right. Other thoughts, questions? Tina?
She just snuck out.
I did sneak out.
So-
So earlier, when you were talking about under the other statute that could be used, is that it automatically goes to an election for a certain amount?
It's subject to notice and protest. It's not,
Okay,
there's
so
not an
it's not
election
an
requirement,
automatic.
so the other statute is 3 publications, and after the 3rd publication, a 60-day
Okay.
protest period begins.
Okay, well, you
For
were just
roads.
talking about the timing of the election, and even if the board decides to leave the election in this, in the charter, or in the project resolution that we would do. You said the timing's a little bit flexible in the election, you could put it on regular election.
Mhm.
But wouldn't it be under the bond election law? I thought there was a 45-day requirement for that to be done, so it would have to depend on when the board would approve it, because
Yes.
otherwise we would have to have a special.
Well, it's the notice of election required under the general bond law is that you have to have the election within a certain time period after your notice of election publishes. And if that time period includes a general election, then you have a little bit longer to have that election, because it would include the time frame in which the general election is being held. So you still have some flexibility as to when the election would be. It depends on when you actually publish your notice of election, and you're correct that it is within 45 days of that publication of the notice of election.
Okay. I just know that if we had to do a special election, that would be a huge expense to
Right.
our taxpayers,
Mhm.
and so, just an extra cost that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what's election at the end of this year, but then does it fit in a primary?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could have it in connection with the primary.
So then that would bring it forward. Okay.
Other questions?
Just statements.
Appreciate the information.
Certainly, certainly.
Fed is gonna raise rates, in my opinion, and the materials and labor is only gonna go up, so that's my opinion.
Well, we have a huge need in our roads. We have road projects that are way beyond possibility. We have to prioritize the most important. And I feel there's a huge support for improving the roads. And if we can do that using Kent's direction of reasonable financing to be able to do that, then it's a win for the taxpayers and our citizens. The timing is there.
Yeah. Timing is starting to get kind
And
of
it's
critical.
getting
In my
critical.
opinion, timing is starting to get a little critical.
And we've missed other opportunities by waiting. But we really appreciate the guidance and the information.
Certainly.
Thank
Any
you for
other-
coming down.
What's the next step?
Well,
Resolution.
yeah, we'll discuss a little bit.
All right, and since this part is a work session,
Yes,
I
no
mean, you do
decisions.
have a charter resolution in your packet.
Right.
And the board could take action on that today if you wanted to during your regular meeting.
So,
Still, that fits right in with your timeline that you provided the last.
Yeah, I think the last, time I was here, I
Yes.
had a calendar that it basically called for, and I
Pretty
want to
sure
run
February
this by
14th.
Mitch, yeah.
Pretty sure, yeah.
And then you would, publish the resolution twice. If you could get that second publication then done at, right at the end of February, that would then have that notice and protest period expiring then at the end of April.
Oh,
And so then, yeah, and that might be a little bit aggressive because I'm not sure that included that extra step to pass the project authorizing resolutions, but that would then look at, selling bonds sometime in May. And that's assuming we could maybe authorize the sale of the bonds
Subject to,
contingent
yeah.
upon the completion of the
I've
protest.
certainly done that before.
Very good. Well, we, again, appreciate all the help and information.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
I miss sharing.
I bet Dave can get you a copy.
I'd be happy to make a copy of that. if you-
Actually, here, I've got some extra copies of that. Did anybody else need that?
I think we all. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, sure.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time.
Of course.
Yeah, no problem.
Take the rest of the day off.
Well, it's something,
There was a little bit of miscommunication somewhere. What, can you go through the bond rates, expected bond rates?
the interest rates?
The interest rates.
Yeah, right now, I ran some calculations before. I'll sit over here. And I think when I ran those out, I had assumed, let me take a look here, a 15-year bond issue with an interest rate of 2.75%. That's probably, when I ran these numbers the first time, that interest rate was probably a 0.5 percentage point higher than where interest rates were at the time. They've crept up a little bit since then. So I think if you were to sell a 15-year bond issue right now, it'd still be below 2.75%. It might be 2.5% or so. But still, when you look at that chart that I sent around, still really low on a historical basis.
Yeah, I just, there was people asked me about it and questioned, so I just said it was 2.75, 2.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's, and those are probably, again, a little bit above what the current prevailing rates are, but, the way rates seem to be trending in a few weeks, those could be.
What May might be.
Yeah, that might be in May, yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to get a
Yeah.
clarification.
And we'll, as the process goes along, if you do decide to proceed, we'll continue to give you updates at each sort of step in the process about what the rates are.
Very good. Any other questions?
Got another one of these sheets.
Yeah.
Randy.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yes, get a copy for Randy.
Thank you.
All right, thank you
Thanks.
again. Thank you very much. Any thoughts? Discussion?
I think move forward.
Yeah, all you can do is move forward. If the interest rate goes too much higher, I don't know.
Yeah, I think time's of the essence. We need to at least get through the publication and protest period.
Right. Now, everyone's had a chance to look through the draft proposed charter resolution.
Right.
Any issues, concerns, questions on that proposal?
I just wanted
As
to
long
make
as
sure.
Brad
that there was-
doesn't have any, make sure anything for him.
Make sure there was a protest period was my main concern, because sometimes we think we're doing the right thing, but the public could say otherwise.
Well, that, we'll find out.
Tina, did see that? You changed.
It happens a lot.
I was looking this way. But Brad can't be here today.
No.
Okay.
But,
You won't be here this afternoon.
but again, everybody's had a chance to look at it. This is the time to discuss if there's questions, concerns, something we need more information on. If not, we can bring that up as an action item this afternoon.
Right.
Really short and simple.
And it leaves options in it. That's the thing. But if we get this piece of the puzzle moving, then the next piece can start proceeding.
First step.
Yep.
We'll see if Bryce is available.
He'll be coming up in just a little bit.
He's online right now.
Because I think he has to wait till 11 in case some late bids come in. But when he comes up, then we can talk more about projects.
Okay.
I mean,
I move we recess.
all right, I have a motion to recess until 11 o'clock. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jonah. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carried 4-0. We'll recess until 11 o'clock.
Recess until 11?
Not so sure. We needed to take a vote on it this work session. You just
Well, that's-
call recess. You're the chairman.
This
Participation.
conference is no longer being recorded.
Participation.
Hello. Hey, I remembered you said you were still on vacation, so I haven't bothered you again. Well, I don't know.
This conference will now be recorded.
All right, we're back in session, and this part of the work session is for the crack seal project bid opening. And let's see, we have one bid.
Yep, came in an email prior
We
to
do have two
time.
bids.
We have two
Yes.
bids.
Yep.
Okay. Very good. We're good with proceeding with two bids?
Yes.
All right.
Just 11 o'clock. Cut off.
11 o'clock, so we're past our deadline.
They ain't here, they ain't here.
We appreciate you joining us.
Yeah.
So just to make sure the process is to read.
Yeah.
Okay.
Open read.
All right.
Did you sign in over there?
I did not.
Or I should say print.
Printing.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the one that came in electronically, Circle C Paving and Construction at Goddard, Kansas. The total, $62,496.20. Don't trust me with an eye.
Water over on this one.
And the second bid is from Pavement Pros LLC, McPherson, Kansas. And the total is $56,568.95.
Sounds good to me.
Okay,
She can run them down and I'll go check them out.
Yeah.
very good.
All the requirements are.
Yeah,
met.
that's what I'll check. That's what I gotta check, so.
And did you require bid bond or just?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And then,
And all that stuff. should
and
be-
then a payment
Yep.
performance bond?
Yes.
Just wanted to see stuff here.
I'm short today.
Yep. Everybody's taking the day, so you have to come work stuff. The weather's nice.
We appreciate you being with us this morning.
Yeah.
And appreciate your submitting the bid on this project. That could be very important for our progress in roads in Marion County.
Yeah.
This is a work session, so we're just opening the bids. Bryce will do some background checking on those and then bring them for the formal decision this afternoon.
Sounds good. All right.
Did you have anything?
Nope, I just wanted to hear the numbers and
Okay.
wait to hear your decision. So,
All right.
you guys have any questions for me while I'm here?
Okay. Do you have a card by chance?
I do.
Okay.
I have to grab it out of my
Oh,
truck.
Gotcha. You can have one of mine downstairs also.
Okay.
My office is down here in the corner.
Okay, downstairs.
Okay.
Thanks for being here.
Oh,
Yep. Thank you.
That's here.
One's McPherson, one's Goddard. Okay. Well, Bryce,
Yeah.
double check that out.
Did you get both of them, Tina?
I wrote them down, but I'm gonna need copies
Yep,
of the actual
yep.
bids. Thank you.
Yeah, you're suspicious, I think you're right.
Been around long enough, but. And it's, to say that it's It's how you play the game.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, it's, I mean, they're not that far off from each other, so.
Right. Well, I actually sent it to another contractor that's actually doing a KDOT job, and he said they were gonna submit something, and I haven't heard anything, so. And again, I mean, we had the same problem with the NRCS, they sent it electronically, and we didn't get it, but they did prove that they had sent it by the time.
It's spam filter blocked it. probably.
Yeah, I think that's what it
Yeah.
was, it went to the spam or something
Yeah,
like
they
that, so.
got that cranked down so tight.
Well, but they have to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way they have to be. It's.
So did you double check today?
I did not, but I mean, yeah.
Just looking at it, owner's perspective for once, and it's, there's a lot of times the breakouts, they can hammer you down on your breakouts, and it's like,
Yeah,
the total is all,
yeah.
I mean,
The total is only relevant for jams. Anyway, did you guys have anything else you want to talk about, or just?
That's the only thing that was on the work session.
Yeah.
Right, but John had
What can we talk about?
had the meeting on the bond stuff, and it was, to, just make sure you stay on us, or we stay on you, or whatever, that we,
Get
have
it
a
in.
plan
Get it in.
for what roads, and their drawings are ready to go, so that if money is borrowed, the
Yeah.
trigger gets pulled
Yeah.
before the prices can increase.
And I think it just, the entire economy, everybody's like, what's, you know,
Yeah.
inflation is going up crazy.
Well, sometimes that causes people to spend less too, so.
Yeah.
And then that allows them to do extra work.
Sure.
So it can be in our favor. Sometimes it's kind of like stock market. Everybody else is panic selling and you're buying.
Yeah, somebody will make money in a down environment.
Always.
But it's usually the person that's got a deep, deep pocket.
Or it's well, they got a deep pocket because they sat around and waited for that recession.
Yes. Yeah. And they don't get really excited, and they play it for the long term, and, you know. And then there's the people taking the, how do you say, all the trading and stuff like that. They're the ones that are actually making money on the trade either way.
Yeah.
So,
Well, there's market movers too
Got-
that are
got
playing
it.
both sides of the coin.
yeah.
Yeah, that's all I had. I just want to really hammer that home. That
Yeah.
Project's ready
Yeah.
to go as soon as money shows up.
We're hoping in, maybe, not this week, but next week, we can get out there with the geology and find out, unless there's something else that comes up, but I think even by mid to late March, I could get that stuff out. Should be okay.
Without if we don't have a protest petition, we'd
Yes.
be looking at letting bond May.
Yep.
We probably can't have his 2 o'clock now.
No.
That's, dang it. It's just an update. There's no action.
But I did not see what their dates were for working either. So most people like to get it done in the spring. You know, I actually can, it's kind of hard to believe the best time to do it is in wintertime, because your cracks are open widest, as long as there's no moisture. Thank you. As long as there's no moisture, so. Anyway, so I'll go downstairs if you need something else, I guess. So.
All right, see you next week. Well.
What was that?
I don't know if there's any other topics you want to discuss, you probably could, because you're not going
No
to take any
decision.
action.
We can talk about a trip with Randy or anything like that. or-
Well, since we do have time, we could do an update on the building committee. I was hoping Randy could be here. Again, my notes.
Would you like me to print that out for you?
Could you? I'd really appreciate
You
that.
bet.
I did write up the notes from the building committee meetings. Really nothing new at this point, but, you know, we've got department heads getting more specific on their needs. And then actually last week, Commissioner Crowfoot and I went to Augusta in Butler County. We looked at their secondary emergency operations center and then their storage building, which is a phenomenal building. For Butler County, it's a nice facility.
I think they wind up paying for that through Spark.
Yes, they did. Use
Yeah.
their smartphones. But it gave some ideas and some things to think about. It is built with emergency management. Not all their offices, but their backup emergency operations center. And then public health has a portion of the building, so the drive-through can be used for clinics. Thank you. So it was a good trip to get some information and some ideas. From the first meeting, we identified spaces that are being rented. So planning and zoning is paying $600 a month. Public health is paying $1575 a month, and emergency management is paying $275 a month. So between that, you're looking over. We take care of planning and zoning, but public health and emergency management are paying over $20,000 a year in rent. So it kind of moves public health a little higher on the priority list. Also, we have the ability to use some of our American Rescue funds for that.
We have a timeline set on that anyway. That's out of our control, correct?
Well, it's a general goal.
Okay.
Just a general goal. The county attorney space is probably identified as one of the most cramped spaces. Short term, just the storage could be moved out of there. I mean, there is a tremendous amount of register of deeds documents in there.
Oh, yeah.
They're having a little trouble hearing you. You're speaking pretty quiet.
I know.
I'll see if I can turn you up.
Move the mic closer to you.
And it blows everybody out.
Earlier you were getting an echo, so I was
It
trying to turn it down.
blows everybody out in the hallway.
Yeah, there's that echo.
That's all right. You talk nice and loud and I'll see if I can adjust it.
All right. But again, the county attorney space is terribly cramped.
So is there any talk about just one building to take care of this, or more than one?
Well, in coming then to the second meeting, we spent more time concentrating on records, digitization, the potential benefits of digitization, which a lot of our records are actually at risk, whether it be from fire damage or water damage. If there would be a fire,
Yeah.
they're going to get damaged. So the direction that we've kind of taken from the last meeting is Tina and I are going to look at other counties that have done digitization, try to get some ideas, figure out what documents, get a better handle on what documents have to be saved and stored.
Well, I mean, we have done a fair amount with the register.
We've started.
Yeah,
We've got a long way to go.
right. But I mean, they've got every record from
Yes,
when
yes.
Kansas became a state.
Yes. But we need to figure out a path and determine the need, and then find a solution to meet that need. So just in general terms, again, this is just a general option that's thrown out, is this space by the sheriff's office, a portion of that used for trailer equipment storage, and a portion of that used for document storage, which would be close proximity. It would be more secure documents, limited public access.
Limited or no
Well,
over there, because
that's-
most generally, if it's, unless you have a space that's set up for it, you're gonna go retrieve the documents and bring them
back.
over for the public to
Right.
view in a regular setting here.
But the digitization part increases the ability of accessibility, reduces your need for storage, and it mitigates risk. So digitization has
Yeah.
three huge advantages to it.
I just
Then
think-
what documents are left, we can store, make them more accessible, and it'd be closer to the courthouse.
The documents need to be close to the courthouse.
Exactly. And then another idea, which I hadn't thought of, I thought was a great idea, is once we clear out the attic space, put the more public interest documents up there, or historical documents, make that kind of a museum. But if there'd be public access, that would be the place, because we've already got the elevator up there. We've already got some of the documents up there, but not, eliminate a lot of the weight. Because it's a phenomenal space up there. I mean, it's.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there would have to do that, you would have to do some,
That'd have to be some work done.
some work,
Yes.
obviously, up
But
there.
not as much as office space, or, you know, document storage is gonna be heavier. But again, it's just an option thrown out. The group is gonna work through it a little more, just kicking around ideas.
Yeah.
If
I
you
just-
did utilize that up there, you would need to, of course, some of our documents are already up there. And there's no, heating or air or humidity control, anything like that. So you would have to kind of plan for that if you're gonna put the more historic things up there, but it's just a matter of utilizing the space you have.
Right.
Yeah.
Rather than.
And then
emptying
if you're
that.
moving them out, some of those things out of where they're currently housed, that potentially frees up more space in the offices and in different areas, so.
I just think that, you know, and some of the commission would like to have everything as close to the courthouse as we can.
Mhm.
To me, I don't think to me, that's not an issue.
Mhm.
If they have good working environment, I don't care if they're 3 miles from here.
Well, with the digitization, it opens up a lot more too, especially if you can retrieve it off a cloud.
Right.
You can basically go anywhere, as long as you can have access to retrieve. When you're finally done.
Right. That's gonna be the issue, is getting there.
Yeah.
That's just it, identifying what has to be, because
Yes.
if you digitize everything we've got back to
Yes.
Buffalo Bill Cody,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a job for a digitization company.
Yeah, that's,
Full time for a year.
oh, way more than a year probably.
Well, and that's what we're looking for, is another county that's already got, why reinvent the wheel? We know every county's struggling with the same problem.
Yeah.
Some have moved forward, some have not. Try to find some of the more progressive counties, see what they have done, find out who they've used, how they've done it. Don't reinvent the wheel, let's find someone that's been successful and see if we can't use that. So that's our first step, is to, well, 2 steps, investigate options of processes or frameworks. And the other one is at the same time identifying the documents that have to be digitized. And a lot of them could just be, destroyed. But we have to go through that process. And then when we do it, organize them so they're easily accessible, they're easily rotated in and out if they're on a 5-year rotation, and make them accessible close to the courthouse, so it's
It adds
process.
extra cost, but wouldn't it be beneficial in some way to digitize everything? And then,
Right.
And then, after that, determine what needs to be destroyed?
I don't know,
I mean,
it's a thought.
it's, well, that way everything is available if ever needed, but it's,
You don't have to throw it away if you digitize it. You can keep it forever then.
Digitized copy.
Either,
It's just, we've
Buy
got
more
a
real.
lot of old hardbound records.
Yes.
I mean, you look at some of this real estate, they were in a hardbound
Yes.
form.
Yeah.
You don't wanna destroy that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
you might give it to a museum or something.
well, and that's the other thing we probably ought to talk about, is when we went to Clay County, they put up a museum that basically holds a lot of their old records that would have been destroyed. But there's people that come in and dig through them, and Ancestry.com and whoever else.
Clay Center's a good, or Clay County's a good, they've got that building we ate in
Yeah.
that has all kinds of records.
Well, that was their model. They used a large building, turned it into a museum, and then that became their document storage.
Document holder too.
But then you also end up having to, at least at some level, staff that and,
There has to be some security.
right, and secure it.
There was,
And, I mean, we could do it on a limited scale, something similar, but utilize,
In their case, they had a building
Yeah.
available. In our case, we'd have to build a building.
Well,
Real.
unless you can find a building, it'd take a pretty sizable
Yeah.
building.
That realistic.
Most of their Main Street buildings aren't that big.
Yeah. But we've been down that path.
Yeah.
Or previous commissions have been down that path.
They're a little unique, but.
So the process is still identifying needs, looking at options, trying to come up with a solution then to bring to the commission to see, try to work out all these ideas. Now, the other side of it is the office spaces. Okay, public health, emergency management, and then road and bridge there in the 1940s shop that is, it's not safe. I mean, something has to be done. So we've got those three needs identified. Then the question is, where do you do it, or what do you do? One of the things we have identified is, especially between public health and emergency management, there's a lot of co-use. Okay, you could co-use office, your copier, postage, workspace. You could co-use your conference space for meeting rooms. You could co-use bathrooms. It's a lot of similar functions, clinics and that type of thing. Another option thrown out is put that together with road and bridge at the current location. Again, they could co-use backup generator. All three need backup generator. All three need conference space. All three need office space. You move the engineer out of the basement, you free up space in the courthouse.
El Dorado had a decontaminant shower that which could be used,
All
say the
three.
road and bridge needs something during the day.
I mean, there's
Hospitals both have them though.
there's
No,
Where I know where Hillsborough.
No, but I mean, if the guys are working, falls from the mud in the morning, you didn't have to go home, maybe clean up the work.
I used to put a hose on it.
Might be a good thought to include planning and zoning and a design for something like that.
Yes.
I mean, I know that we temporarily
Yes.
potentially solve that, but that may not be
Right.
your long-term
Long-term
solution.
solution. So,
But
Just-
right now, if you can find a building, or you're thinking about building a building, your best bang for the buck is to buy the building. Because, take example, a new ambulance building.
yep.
A year ago, who'd ever thought it was gonna cost
That's-
near that much?
That's the same thought on these bond issues. It's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Pull the trigger if you're gonna do it.
Yep.
And there are some facilities around that are for sale. So, that would fit some of our departments, at least in my estimation it would. It'd take some work, but it'd fit them. So don't just think on the terms of new construction, because I think going forward, that's gonna get everybody in trouble.
Good point. Tina, did you have anything to add?
No, I don't.
Thanks for giving us the update though on
Well,
the meeting.
that's, the thought process is let the department heads look at options, try to come up with some ideas, and then bring it to the commission.
And then we put our thumb on it.
Then you guys, you go over it and say, oh, start over,
Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, but just to let you know, there is a process going on and options are being investigated. But if you have any input, don't hesitate to let us know. Anything else, or are you ready to recess for lunch?
I
Tina,
don't
do you
know
have-
what time they're getting the food, I'll find out.
Okay.
Did you want to talk anything at all about, or we've already maybe talked about this, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit foggy, about the process of the room
Yeah,
renovation?
We didn't bring anything up today about it.
Do you want to, or just,
If you got any input, I don't know, I haven't made any more headway other than to hear back from your visit.
okay. So, I mean, I think that you maybe all know, I don't remember when we talked last, but Jonah did come in and he put it he measured the room, did some drawings, and he's consulted with a company to help develop some specs for you all to decide how you want the room. And so that's in process. I think he's waiting to hear back from that person as far as what the specs will be, and then we can bid that out. So, you know, we were talking about potentially, there's some sound equipment now that there's a microphone you could put in the ceiling and put the speakers in the ceiling. And the ceiling microphone would be able to pick up everybody in the room, plus there's different settings you can do to make sure it tunes out certain things like the heater, the fans, or, you know, certain things like that.
The hallway is absolutely horrible.
And I don't know how much we'll be able to get away with that, but if we make the close to the door, maybe a dead zone, maybe that would help.
You can move the chairs to the other end.
Potentially, yes.
But then that also frees up this area, and so the AV rack can be mounted
Oh,
up here somewhere.
And it would also take away the soundboard, all the microphones on the table.
That would be all tied through her
And
her
there would,
interface.
there would probably be a single
And the cords
computer
from underneath
that,
the table.
some of those,
Yeah, that'll clean that up too with this whole.
yes, a lot of it.
It'll all be either desk pop-up and cable management up underneath.
Yep.
But it would require these probably to be bolted together, and I don't know, I didn't bring that up to Timmy yet, so I'm kind of
Well,
spraying
if
it
you
on
can
there.
actually take them apart, then I think it's
Yeah,
fine.
you can take them apart, but it just,
a little more difficult.
it becomes a wireway, so to take them apart is.
It's more,
You'd have to undo the cables.
right. The other thing would be the camera. So potentially have 2 cameras, and it can be put in with the sound system to where it automatically the camera will go to who's speaking. And so that's who you would see, like on the electronic meeting. You may have noticed I've been trying to keep our camera view larger and not display the meeting documents the whole time. That's because basically that, if we do away with the video camera that we have in the process of doing a dual recording, then whatever we do on a virtual meeting will also be what goes out for the public to see on our website and on cable TV here. So we want the best possible recording through the meeting that we can get. So
She said 2 cameras, so one would be coming towards us this way, and the one will go back towards the public.
Okay.
So that way if the public does speak, the camera will kick in and grab them.
Good.
And then that way, it'll also help for the media to recognize who's speaking out.
Yes.
Crowd.
And then we did talk about, sometimes this room is used for other meetings, especially planning and zoning. So if we continue to use this room for planning and zoning, then we would have to make sure we have the ability to facilitate that automatic camera shifting and the microphone knowing where people should be sitting to pick up the voices for that. And so that was an aspect that we hadn't considered before I spoke with your individual. And so that's a whole nother little set of factors that we would have to consider.
Does planning and zoning bring in another table?
Yep. Yeah, well, excuse the way I'm gonna say this, but we kind of do a little bit redneck because we
Yeah.
set up tables here and then just everybody squeezes in wherever. So it's not real conducive.
For a public meeting. Otherwise, they
Right.
could go and just make a rectangle, and then
Right.
the cameras would pick everybody up, but then that doesn't.
You would still have to have a separate configuration potentially, possibly for that. But yes, then you could do that, but then you still don't have the ability to have space for people to come in. So the room's just a little bit small.
Well, for larger meetings, when you have a large audience, we go somewhere else.
That's true. And then you lose your,
But of course, then we
You're-
use you're right.
yeah, you don't have then your good equipment, and if you do offer a virtual meeting attendance option, then it's not gonna be very
That's true.
very good, because people won't be able to hear.
But I
Now,
live-
we do have the extended area in the hall, you know, where people can listen to the meeting, but they can't really comment from out there. And we also discussed that, because that needs to be something that we consider with our plan too, as how, what, you know, if we're using that hallway display and the feedback that that potentially could cause with the system here, so. But I'm just kind of looking at all the different options, so we'll see.
A lot of the big ticket items though, and I know you're talking about building. Hey, most of the big ticket stuff is boom. It could go to, if you built this building and you had a conference room there, but that would all play into digitization and talks, because otherwise it's just not friendly to be somewhere other than here.
Right.
Since we rely on Tina so much.
Yep. Absolutely.
Just run over there and grab something.
Yeah. That's right.
I think it's a great thing. I know that the places that have done it, it's a really great thing.
How much money you want to spend to make it great?
Yeah, well, I mean, it really doesn't take a lot to make it great, but it does take, I mean, in the scheme of thinking about a lot, it's less than a new vehicle.
Dave and I are thinking 10,000 or less, and we're way, I know we're way low.
Yeah.
Jonah said new vehicle.
That's what the board costs.
Yeah,
You
you're
don't
less.
know what kind of vehicle you talk about.
Well, new car, what, 38,000?
I don't know if you watched the Super Bowl last night, we don't have any internal combustion cars anymore. I had to look up that Silverado.
Oh, well, that's a whole nother story. The infrastructure isn't quite built for
Yeah.
something like that.
Your investigation into this system has tremendous value. I mean, we've got a number of people who listen in.
It seems to be growing too. I mean, it seems to be like we got more of an audience
Yes.
outside than we do inside.
Yes.
So.
Yes, and it's a
Well,
service
people
to.
get used to it, you know.
Well, that's, yeah, there was some reluctance to it at the beginning, but I have always thought it was the greatest thing we could ever do. We passed up on this technology for 10+ years.
Yeah.
We do have a comment on the meeting from Bryce that he says to confirm the third contractor did not submit a bid, misread the bid documents, so. Okay,
So we've got the two.
right.
All right. I appreciate the work on it. It's going to be a valuable asset. Tune in.
Been very helpful.
Yep.
I can draw whatever up in my head, but somebody that goes through the struggle is actually somebody that needs to have more input.
Exactly.
I believe we have ordered lunch, which should be here around 11:45, 11:50. So
Okay.
I don't know if there are some other.
This afternoon, we're going to be talking about the health insurance renewal. Is there anything you want to prep us with before he's here? Or
Should have went down this year.
It didn't.
It didn't.
It didn't, but.
Never seen health insurance go down?
Mine did.
Well, they also base it on our claims history and all that, but it's my understanding, it is not a large increase. We had asked him to look at self-insurance options as well. He said that based on our loss history and everything, and the slight increase that we're looking at this year, he did look at that, and it's not a good time for the county to go that way.
Okay.
The numbers wouldn't make sense for us right now. So that's really what I know about that.
When do we have another work session with Brad? Ever?
As soon as we settle.
Because I'd really like to set the policy as far as rock roads go.
Okay.
Residential, commercial, industrial, frequency of use.
Yep.
Thresholds.
Okay. 28th is a payday meeting. Would you want to do work session after payday?
I'm good with that.
And at this point, I don't see anything else on that schedule.
There will be more things.
No, I know there will. But it's the morning we're gonna meet at 9 o'clock for payday. So I would think that would be an attractive time to do work session if you'd like.
Yeah, and then that can end. And
We can work a work session.
Not take recesses to get to the regular meeting.
Yep. I just anticipated more discussion today, I guess.
Oh, no, that's fine.
But we will contact Brad and see if we can't get that set up for the 28th. And if you want to contact him about specifically,
Yeah, I just.
that'd be agreeable with the rest of the commission.
I just like to have something more set in stone rather than,
Yep.
this person gets it, this person doesn't.
Yep. It's been on our list.
Did Isaac contact any of you guys about, someone's come to the lake tomorrow to talk about putting an apparatus in the lake to get rid of the algae?
No, I knew that was, K-State was gonna work on something, but I didn't know.
Somebody,
It's not K-State.
I'm not sure, I don't think so.
They've been to us once already, a
Okay.
couple of years ago.
I welcome that every day of the week if they wanna clean up our blue-green algae.
All right, is there anything else? If not, we'll recess the work session until we come back at 12:30 for our regular commission meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
We stand recessed.
That's how you handle it like a chairman. Just say that's what we're doing. Recess.
Can't make a motion. I'm not gonna take it away. No, you can't make a motion. I agree with it.
Oh, I probably should watch this one.
February 14th, we had a work session this morning, and I've already done the flag salute at that time. First item will be public forum. There's no one in the room, but is there anyone online who would like to make public comments? Not seeing any. Let's move into agenda approval.
The county treasurer has requested a short executive session be added to the end to discuss personnel performance if possible.
Okay, we'll add the treasurer at the end. Under, I think under administrative business, we would have time to take up the bond charter resolution. Any other additions to the agenda?
We have time at the end of executive session for personnel.
Okay.
Executive session?
Yes, for personnel. And then my other deal will be under Road and Bridge with Bryce.
Okay. And county councilor will not be with us today.
Okay.
I think I'm ready to turn it over to Tina for administrative.
Okay. And I don't have a lot. I do not have the minutes from the previous meeting for you. So we'll have 2 sets for next week. We do have some change orders.
Be careful when she says some.
It looks like quite a few.
Fascinating.
When she says some, or she says just a few, there's a big difference. that they get themselves their own land bank?
Oh. Plenty of them.
District number 3 was important.
You should get the back page.
Yeah. All by myself. Still coming, Dave. There's
Yeah.
a bunch of them.
All the payment under protests, I believe. That's a lot of what you're seeing there.
Seen a lot of pups.
That's what that is.
For the longest time, I thought that was just a, man, these people around here sure got a lot of tandem trailer pups.
That's our loving way of referring to payment under protest.
Sorry, my dad. My dad had tandem trucks for wheat hauling. Pup on his pups.
Mhm.
That's what my brain used.
Done signing that.
Is there anything they're payment of, all kinds of payments under protest for different things, or just in general?
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
That'd be a great question for the appraiser's office.
That might be okay.
Because that's, something I won't know.
Oh, okay. Ah. Gotcha.
If you want me to find out, have the appraiser's office come and report, you know, kind of how that process went and where the main protests were, then I can certainly do that. Have to put it on the agenda if you'd like.
Is it over with now, or can they still pay? Still pay?
The thing about payment under protest, you have to pay at least a half of your taxes to be able to do that process. And so I think that, you know, that deadline was the middle, was December, and so.
Well, maybe that's okay. Maybe
So
it's probably-
now, then they hold their hearings, make their determinations, and then there's another time people can protest their value, not their taxes, and that's coming up in March. So when the value notices go out, there's another period. Excuse me.
Another time frame. Yeah.
If I remember right, Nikki said about 19 payments under protest. But I think they've pretty well all been resolved. Because some of them came through last week. So, okay.
I was looking at where they were.
All right, next.
Okay. We do have early checks. That was all in your packet.
Okay. Everyone had a chance to review the early checks? Any questions? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
Yes. So moved.
Okay, motion by Jonah, and what's the amount? Put you on the spot.
$73,757.53.
Okay, we have a motion by Jonah to approve early checks. Is there a second? Second by Randy Dalkey. Any further discussion? If not, we'll hear a question.
One of the vendors is Prairie View, so is that?
That's their quarterly allocation.
Okay,
We
so it's
delayed
quarter.
that.
Okay.
Oh, yes, we
Mhm.
delayed that until you made your decision.
Okay.
Yep, quarterly payment. Any further questions? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried 5-0.
I apologize, I'm going to try not to do that.
That's understood.
Let's see, I think that there was an invitation to
Yes.
a meeting.
Yes, there's an invitation to the Soil Conservation District Annual Meeting. Be Saturday, February 19th, 6:30 in the evening at Eastmore Church in Marion. Are any other commissioners planning to attend? They need reservations yet today.
When's it off today?
Today.
I haven't talked to my wife about it.
Okay, if you could let them know this evening, as soon as possible. I do plan to attend.
Okay.
All right.
Good. Let you know if you plan to attend in case there's multiple.
Yeah, if there are more than 2 of you going, then I'll do it just a special level of notice.
Oh,
That,
okay.
so
Well, I
if
will-
you are gonna
I
go, then
will-
let me
I
know.
will let you know, and then if there's nothing
Has
to worry
anybody
about.
else signed up for it?
No.
We have 2 now, okay. Just 2.
So,
If there's 3 of us, we have to have a special meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's not technically a meeting because you're not gonna be discussing county business, but I usually just let the public know
Sure.
that you may be in attendance.
Yeah. Okay.
that's what I'm trying to do.
It's kinda
Just
over-
see-
it's
see
a little
why
bit-
a little bit.
It's a little bit overkill, but I'm kinda careful about those things.
Sure, appreciate that.
So, okay. Oh, Commissioner Gehring had asked this, there was a drawing in your packet.
Oh, yeah.
Did you wanna?
That's why I wanted it in the drawing, or in the packet, because I forget.
You won the drawing, huh?
And I
did win a
don't
drawing,
really
but
know
not this
anything
one.
about it, so I just.
Yeah, so this is basically a substation by our transfer station. They're gonna need some extra space to build their fence outside of the existing footprint. And just wanted to make sure everybody's aware of it. It's got, it's getting updates and it needs to get updated. Therefore, it needs to be in code compliance.
Mhm.
So, I didn't think there'd be any issue or pushback, but I thought I would at least bring it up here. So that way if there's something I'm not thinking of, that the rest of you chime in.
Who's doing this?
I believe it's the sub that's working for the city of Marion.
Did they send any formal in, or how'd you get it?
I got it from the administrator,
No.
just to make sure that, and I felt like, well, when I had talked to him, I felt.
There's no need of any variance or anything? City?
I don't know what we would need to do. I mean, it's basically gotta be done if they're going to get the upgrades.
Alright, so is this on city property or?
It's on the property that's, the transfer station is on, so I don't know if the city owns it or if we own the outside of it, or.
So if it is on county property, then there would be a process that the city would need to, or, to follow to be able to acquire the additional right of way, I would imagine.
And since it's along the retaining wall, you look at it on the right-hand corner of the page. It's so, I mean, it's right on the line there.
What's this square down at the bottom out here? Is that the
cement slab?
Is that the slab?
Square down at the bottom, I think I think this thing's upside down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I think
it
it's.
needs to be turned one more time.
Yeah.
Half a
Well,
turn.
no, it's not upside down. It's north is up,
I don't know what,
and that should be our building then, right?
the retaining walls, everything's in the wrong place.
Retaining wall on the north side.
Should this retaining wall be here and the slab out here?
Josh is right there. Josh, come here a second.
I wish we had this under Josh's.
Tell us what we're looking at here.
Tell us what we're
Has
saying.
the city talked to you at all about this?
Oh, no!
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Up there on the screen too. It's the substation next to the transfer station.
Yeah, that is a substation. Looks like that piece,
This here?
that would be our, that concrete slab that we have down below, looks like
It's the
it.
new one, right?
Yes. We did,
That's
I've talked to Tim about it, but I was wanting to get together with him and stuff. I know a little bit, not a whole lot, was trying to get.
Do you know if it's our property or is it their property? Or?
I think part of it's on ours.
Okay.
They're wanting to extend because they gotta have a 10-foot
Right.
from that, so that would be on ours. I know they kinda talked like something about the fence going on that retaining wall that we have
Right.
on the old spot and then going up to, I said, well, we're gonna have to have our access to our AC unit because that is on that north side of that building too. So I just hadn't gotten, Tim told me a little bit about it, but we hadn't got together to get a plan to bring up here and,
Okay. So I was bringing it up.
yeah.
It's basically awareness. I wasn't bringing it up for us to make a decision. But,
Yeah.
And I don't know everything either. And then they
I-
started talking about city property,
Yes,
county
I wanted to-
property.
I don't know everything either, that's, I was trying to get with Tim
Okay.
and see what two of us can come up with and get a plan and bring up here and then be able to let you guys know more of what's going on and stuff, but that's all he's kinda said to me. It's not a whole lot that I know much more than that, so.
Is there anything you know of that's underground there?
The only thing under,
Or anything?
no, all the sewer should go out to the south of the transfer station, so the only thing they've got is be their
Their line that they're going to replace, the 2400 line, is
Yeah.
out there.
yeah,
One
that's,
they've already cut a couple times.
yes.
They should know where it's at by now.
Mhm.
Well, hopefully they don't need it. After
Yeah.
this. I just want to make sure we brought it up. Didn't want any stumbling blocks, especially when they got the crews running around that.
And I I plumb forgot about it, but I'll.
Well, that's why I had Tina put it in the packet, because I forgot about it already today too, so.
How'd you get home?
The city administrator.
Well, I don't think the city
Roger?
needs, we want the city putting up
Roger?
fences without going through a process with us.
Yeah, that's what we were trying to get that so we can get the right whereabouts, and I know they're gonna have to do some surveying to find out where the property line is and all that too, so.
And I don't know that I've never been told, except for what the building sets on is what the county or city owned. But you gotta go back clear to the original.
Exactly, and that's
Agreement.
further than I've been around
Oh,
here,
right, me
so.
too. I don't know.
I don't know it all that.
I don't have no problems with it, I mean, but just
Mm-hmm.
formalities.
Yeah.
So at this point, we're just looking at this as an informational
Yeah.
item, and we're getting more research and more information to come.
Yeah, and basically putting it out there and being told, oh, we gotta go through this step and this step. Okay, well, that way we don't delay their project.
Very good.
That don't seem to be a matter if it's the other way around, because I've been here when it didn't matter.
So, well, I know.
I mean, I think we're better than that. I'm willing to work with them, whatever, but just so we know what's going on.
I know a lot of their constituents here seem to suffer a lot for the one line, so I just don't wanna hurt them.
Say that again?
Probably not. The point is, we want to work together.
Yeah.
We're going to gather more information and move forward. Okay. Good?
And they're upgrading their electric facility, is that what's happening?
Yeah, they're supposed to be upgrading their 2400 line. And part of that is to upgrade their substation.
It's a year-long project.
Okay. Anything else on that issue?
That turned out to be more than I thought it was gonna be.
Okay, let's
Okay.
go back to administrative.
And the only other thing that I have potentially for administrative would be the charter resolution, if you're ready to move forward on that.
Thank you,
From
Josh.
this morning. And
We'll be right back with you.
that would be, if you do take action, it'd be charter resolution number 14.
What's the commission's interest, desire? We had the consultants in this morning with a thorough explanation of the charter, the effects, impacts. Do we have a motion to move forward with the bond charter resolution?
I'd make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Dave Crowfoot. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Kent Becker. Any other discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried 5-0. Thank you.
Just a final comment. Our intentions is to stay under our debt limit,
Yes.
but I would say that if something, a major project come in within a small amount or something like that, you know, it would be looked at whether we would go over or not, but still our debt limit is our debt limit, and that's sort of a standby to go
Yep.
by.
Absolutely. And the resolution gives options. It's not tying our hands.
This isn't the bond yet, this is just
Yeah.
the opportunity to
The
pursue the
opportunity for
bond.
bonds, yes.
I was just gonna say, I didn't really have a lot of things for when I commit to, but we had said that we were gonna approve those bids at 3. I don't know if you wanna wait that long or table until next week. I'm okay with the approval of the lower one, the low bid, so if you wanna do that ahead of time, we can just send something out that's been approved. Steve's gone, so I gotta go out and look at some stuff, is what I was saying.
Okay.
So you're wanting to miss the rest of the meeting, Bryce?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or do you have something else for me, or?
Just a short one. Just a heads up, I'd like for you to look at a road down by Jim Bob Watkins from his place to the highway and give us your observation maybe
Okay.
next week, since you've got things to do, but if you can make it by there and bring it back. And then I think the main concern is coming up to, again, who takes and works on our roads, who does that, and
Yeah.
you know, so I've heard under the grapevine that they think there's no resolution says that they can't work on our roads.
I don't know of anything out there. We've been working on this for 2 years to come up with a resolution with Brad, so
Yeah.
he keeps saying he wants to get with me, and I'm waiting, but
Yeah.
anyway. But yeah, we've got the issue all across the county,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, and
but,
bottom line, when someone
Add that to this one.
upsets another constituent, why,
well, it's, yeah.
it's gonna drive us to do
Sure,
something.
sure,
So,
okay.
just-
So anyway, I just wanna let you know, but
Right.
so if you wanna do that, you can,
So
or,
would there be any issues if we
Your-
would make a decision?
Your second bidder wasn't planning to come in person.
not that I know of. He submitted it electronically.
I think it would be good to make sure.
Okay,
If you had-
and if you wanna do that, that would be fine too. But I didn't know if you guys are gonna be done soon enough to wait till
Well-
3 or whatever, but, or you wanna just find out whether he wants to come in
Yes.
person? Okay,
Answer that
And if
question.
so, then you might wanna,
Okay.
they could move it earlier. Because
Okay.
if they're the only two bidders, the
Sure.
person that was already here knows that
Yep.
it's just gonna be later.
okay.
Contact them, let us know, and then we'll
Okay,
make a decision.
sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that, Josh.
Do I have the resolution signed?
Yeah, it's right down there.
Dave.
Resolution.
Yeah, that, where's Sandy son?
We're playing yo-yo with you today. Sorry
It's all
about
right.
that.
Once I get that back, that's all I have.
Okay.
One for each of us?
One for each of you, one for Tina.
Okay.
All right.
I got chemical bids for this year.
Okay.
I lost about half, if not 2/3 of my, because the chemicals gone up about half, doubled and almost
Mhm.
tripled in price. First one is Van Diest, and they come in at a good price, and then the next one is Nutrien. I know in years past, we've picked and choose the lower price, and this year, I think one of them is like $170 difference. I'd just like to stick with at least one company this year, because last year we ordered something and there was some turnarounds up there, and I never got the chemical that I ordered, so I'd just like to try sticking with one company this year. With all.
One product,
Yeah.
Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It ain't worth them trying to go this way and that way, and probably spending more time remembering and reordering and finding phone numbers. So I'll make a motion to go ahead and move with Van Diest.
Second.
Okay, and that was in the amount of $36,836.32. We have a motion by Jonah Gehring, second by Randy Dalkey. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. I guess in the interest of information, the second bid for Nutrient Solutions was $41,050.40. The winning bid was Van Diest Supply, $36,836.32.
Switched on me again.
I'm sorry?
They switched on me again. Did you see it? It's like a magic act over there.
It's amazing.
Tina's got how many faces?
A lot. She's got a lot of hats too.
A lot of hats, yeah. Okay, thank
Other
you,
than,
Josh.
other than that, that's all I had really, it's just
Okay.
the chemical bids today.
Hopefully they can get in timely, and maybe by going with one supplier, it'll speed
That's,
that up a little bit.
they're talking, prices are still going up this year
Sure.
and stuff, and I figure, well, early I can get in and get it going.
Good.
Maybe I can keep this price, and
Yeah.
I won't be able to get much more throughout the year, because I know where my budget sits now, so.
Right.
So you're able to keep an adequate supply of whatever's the most popular?
Yeah, I've actually, last year, and I still carried over 2 pallets of 240 gaming, so I've got 2 pallets there already.
Okay.
But I'll sell that at the price that I had last year, and then when that goes away and I sell that all out, then I'll have to reprice everything, so.
So how come you don't use this year's price?
I was gonna say, I understand what you're trying to do, Josh,
Mhm.
but yet we gotta replace it.
Mhm.
I'd sell it at this year's price.
Just
I'm
sell
sorry.
the replacement cost.
Okay.
I don't think you got to.
You got commission consensus.
It'd make your life simpler too.
All right.
Otherwise, one person's gonna come in and buy both pallets.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Okay, I can
You
do
got
that.
commission consensus to do that.
Okay.
Because we've held it for a year now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gotta
Money
pay-
in the bank.
It's gotta pay for the square footage it used.
That's right, the
Yeah.
storage.
All right.
Well, good.
Glad you got those, and we appreciate both companies that put in the bids.
Mhm. Anything else?
Just one comment. I noticed, and I've talked to Josh about this, but even if you read that,
Right.
Harvey County's literally making a big blurb about if they get containers of things in that they think are good, they set them out on shelves for the public to take. And we've been doing that for how long?
As long as I've been around, I know.
We've been doing that for a long time.
But the recycle
But-
reuse program for the HHW.
But I think it's just good to let the public know it's there.
Yeah.
You know? We're not making any guarantee on it that's any good, but it appears it might.
A lot of latex and oil base we go through and stuff that we have come in, we pop it open, oh, it's good. You know, the last director, he had a paint shaker. I'll go throw it up on there and get it shut really good and check it again, and I'll throw it on the shelf. And we got our regulars that come in about once a month or every other month and look through paint and stuff, so.
Oh, good. Very
That's
good.
pretty neat.
That is.
That's a good.
I wasn't aware of that.
It's, you know, I don't think a lot of the public knows it.
Oh, I didn't.
Somebody had asked me one time if we threw all that stuff away, and I just took for granted, well, we probably do. I said, well, there's probably some good stuff there you ought to get.
When I built my house 30 years ago, I painted the subfloor, because you know it's going to get rained on.
Mhm.
It's guaranteed if we get a roof on.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's good
Recycling
service.
at its
Lots
best.
of different colors.
Yeah, doesn't really matter, carpet's gonna cover it anyway, right?
Just throw down a 5-gallon bucket and spread it around.
There you go. Well, thank you very much, Josh.
All right, thank you. See you guys later.
Thank you. Okay, Claudio? Oh, my goodness.
Good afternoon. How are
got
you?
Heavy lifting today. Or gear.
Not so much. I
Hopefully it's
figured
all-
you guys would break for lunch. You came Guess you didn't have a meeting or anything.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Oh, did you?
We did.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
We just ate pizza.
Huh?
Ate pizza. Keep going.
Yeah, good. Well, I am gonna get right to it then. If you, well, I'll just pass them actually, because it might be easier for me to hand them out. Well, you commissioners know, I guess I'm on the agenda, so know my name, Claudio Fernandez.
Thank you for being here.
Cross, thank you. And some, okay.
Insurance went down like 100%.
Well, not really, not really.
But we gotta start this
Sorry
off
to
right,
say
right?
that. Yeah. So, how many of you were were you all last year?
We were all here
All
last
of you?
year.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
You don't have to.
You was a new guy.
I was the new guy last year,
Yeah.
yeah, so I guess I'm a year into it, a little more,
Yeah.
so I guess I can answer more questions now, I suppose.
That's good, that's good.
So, well, let's get right down to it. The binder I gave you there on that first page before that tab number 1, after the cover, kind of has a little bit of a summary of what I have there for you. So, no insurance did not go down. we have an increase of 6%. You know, last year was really good, and it was an easy look at it. You know, basically didn't change. You know, but this year we're looking at a 6% increase on the premium. On the health, then on dental is pretty much the same. You know, a decrease of 0.6%. Of course, the dental plan is not very significant, you know, dollar-wise, as when you compare it to the health plan. One of the things that we saw, well, happening is, number one, you know, and I don't know if I mentioned it last year, but of course with COVID, claims have been down. So when COVID hit, everybody stopped going to the doctors or scheduling, you know, their procedures and whatnot. So that helped keep the claims down, because of course, you know, the premiums will be a result of claims. So the more claims we have, the more claims we pay, the more premiums, you know, we're going to have to charge. Our company, you know, as Blue Cross and Blue Shield, being a Kansas company, we're a mutual company, so that means that basically the company is owned by all the members. So all the monies that come in on premiums go out to pay for claims and to run the company. So we're not in it for a profit. So today we are running the company with about 9% of the revenue. So for every $100 that comes in on premiums, you know, we're spending about $9 in running the company, and the other $91 are going back out to pay for claims and health services. So with that said, you know, I think we are required by law that that all the money that comes in on premiums, you know, what goes out needs to be, depending on the size of the group, 80 or 85% to pay for claims. So we are, you know, significantly above that law requirement. So anyway, I like to point that out because, you know, people sometimes think, okay, you know, we're pocketing the money and raising the premiums, and that's not the case. So the premiums are a direct result of claims. So specifically in your guys' group, when you have, you know, over 100 employees, we saw claims go up this last year about $100,000. You know, I can tell you that we've paid about, you know, this year $700,000 in claims, and then the prior year we were looking at about a little less than 500. So we're talking, you know, over 10%, you know, close to maybe, you know, 15% of increase on the claims that we have had to pay this past year. So that's, again, you know, the result of that is having to increase those premiums, because we gotta have the money to pay for the claims. So with that said, if you go to your tab 1 and you look at this sheet, okay, and this says, you know, group utilization report on the top there. And there's a lot of numbers here, and I'm not going to go in detail on that unless you have questions on that, and you know, but basically that tells us what we look at when we are determining what the premiums are going to be. So we look at what your claims had been, you know, in the prior what we call the experience period. So we look at, if you see on line 2 there, we have an experience period and then renewal period. Renewal period is your plan year. So your plan year goes from May 1st through April 31st or April 30th. The experience period is a period of claims that we look at in order to determine your premium. So we look at all your claims for the 12-month period through 2021. And based on that, you know, we project, okay, what those claims are going to be for this coming year. So the projections are based on a few things, and those are all the factors that are on that line 3. The few important ones to note are what we call trends. So trends is basically the changes of cost in the health industry. So it would be like the inflation, you know, in the health industry. So annual trend, we see there, that column. You know, when we look at what says Blue Cross and then Blue Shield, so that's hospitalization and professional services, and then dental, and then drug. those are the four numbers there. So prescription drugs is driving a lot of this increase too. 9% is a trend on prescription drugs as opposed to around 3% in, on hospital services and almost 2% on professional services. So there is a lot of, I guess, prescription drugs that are going, that whole prescription drug industry is crazy and it's just going up and up every year. So we're always doing things to kind of keep those costs under control and try to move people to generic as much as we can, and most people consume generic and they do actually. So with that we are keeping, trying to keep those costs down, but they still go up every year. So that's an important factor on that. We have what we call, you're still going to see on that second to last column there on that number 3 line, a desired loss ratio. Loss ratio is the difference between what comes in on premiums and what goes out to pay for claims. So they get the percentage. So we're saying, we would like to have around a 93% loss ratio, meaning, that at least, be able to keep 7% to run for our operating expenses. So if you look at the number 7, line number 7, it says projected loss ratio. With the projection of claims that we have, with the way the claims were this year and how we're projecting, we're still not going to meet that desired loss ratio of 93%. So you can see there that it says, projected loss ratio is 105%. So basically that means that we're going to be paying, we project for this coming year to be paying about 5% more on claims than what we're getting in on premiums. So basically we're not making money on, even though with our projections, even with that increase in premiums, we're not going to pay for all your claims. But that's how insurance works. So there are some that have lower claims, and so it's kind of a subsidiary, I guess, bag where all the money goes. And then with those that have lower claims, we're paying your guys' claims, and that's just on the aggregate level, in the state of Kansas. So that's a couple of things that I wanted to point out, just to basically reassure you that, yeah, 6% is an increase, obviously, that nobody wants, but there's just no way around it based on the claims, that we have been getting from the groups, the utilization of your members, and that's why we have insurance, because we have some members that have some high claims. So for instance, if you go a couple of pages after that, there's one that says claims in excess of $25,000. You're going to see there that of all those, almost $900,000 in claims, 7 people have over half of the claims. So we got 2 people, with close to $300,000 in claims. So over half of the claims are coming from only 7 people out of the 100 and plus. How many do we have? 100. You're right on 100 actually, I think, or 90. Yeah, 92. We have 92 people on the plan. Out of those 92, there's 7 that have over half of the claims. So again, that is why we have insurance, because the ones that do not use it, pretty much, we're paying for the ones that need it, the most. And that's how it works for vehicles. That's how it works on houses, and that's how it works on health insurance. Any questions on that, on the numbers there? Okay, so as far as benefits, there's no changes in benefits. Same, all remain the same. You have those 3 plans with from $500 to $1,000 to $1,500 deductible. All that remains exactly the same. So there's no changes on that. I did take the liberty, and I think, well, we kind of mentioned a little bit about it, and I had a pre-renewal meeting here with Tina and Cherry, and to discuss options before the renewal, was coming out. We didn't know at the time how it was going to look. We knew that the claims were up, compared to the prior year. So on that tab 2, I did run a couple of what we call ASO options. Okay, ASO is self-insured. So you guys are full insured, and I don't know if you in the past had. I think you had probably talked a little bit about, or the commissioners at that time talked a little bit about being self-insured. Self-insured is a great thing, but depends on how risk tolerant, I guess, as a group you are, because it can go, it can go both ways. So you can save on claims, you can get to keep money, but it also can go up and you get to spend a little more. So if you go to that, let me see, I think it's on that tab 10, I have 3 options there, and I'm not going to bore you with all 3 of them. I don't have my graph here, and I apologize, because I had a graph for this, but we have the 3 options there. The first one is the one that let's focus on this first one, which says ASO option 1. So I'm still on tab 2. Okay, so on the second tab.
On the, which page? Are you on the page 2 of this?
I'm on the
Where it says
page
option
2,
A?
correct.
Option
Yeah,
A.
the second, when it says ASO option number 1, right after that cover page of
Yeah, I think
tab
it
2.
says option A. Is that the same?
I'm looking at,
What
no,
is-
I'm on tab 2.
Has the blue line on top.
Yes.
Oh, is this yours?
Okay.
Put together
No,
different?
yeah, no, it's fine.
Okay, okay. So, the way a self-insured works, you get billed for the claims, okay? Instead of you paying, the county paying us a premium and we pay all the claims, you pay us for administering the plan, okay, which is a plan, with the same benefits. But, so we charge you an administration fee for that, and then we charge you a stop-loss premium for that, and I'll explain what that is in a minute. And then we bill you for the claims. So we make this projection of this is what we expect the claims are going to be, and that is what we call by expected funding there. When it says for expected funding, $1.1 million. So with that we're saying we recommend that you fund for the year $1.1 million for the health plan. Out of that is going to come out what you pay us for administering the plan and those stop loss premiums, and to pay for all the claims that will come in from members, okay? So the claims come in, we're administering the plan, so we run those claims, we pay them, and then we bill the county for those claims weekly. So you gotta have that funded so that, to a certain level, so that those claims can be paid weekly, okay? So let's say we tell you that the claims are gonna be $900,000 for the year, for instance, okay? And then we set a minimum or a stop loss at an individual level and at a group level. So that means like on this option 1, we say we have their individual stop loss $30,000. That means that if any member has claims over $30,000 in the year, once they hit that $30,000 mark, the county does not get billed for those claims anymore. We, Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas, pay for the claims above $30,000 for each member. And that is why you're paying us that stop-loss premium, okay? Now there's also an aggregate stop-loss, which means overall, adding all the claims for the entire county, if they go up over 25% above, or let's say over 125% of the projected claims, let's say we projected $1 million. So if the claims, once the claims total overall go above $1.25 million, we pay for those claims too. We stop billing the county for those, and we paying, and that is again why you'll be paying that stop loss premium, okay? So with all costs included, the administration fee, stop loss premiums, and the claims that we project that you might need to pay if you were self-funded, we are looking at that would be that line that says maximum funded. That means the maximum that you would be hitting, that you would have to pay $1.3. So because this includes the 25% over the expected claims, and all the cost of administering and all the stop loss premiums, that would be the total that the county would ever pay if you were to go with this. You know, this would be that worst case scenario, basically, if you were self-insured. Worst case scenario, that means, you know, about 25% increase compared to your current plan, okay? However, if you are at expected, so if your claims happen to be at the level that we projected them, that's the expected level, the projected, you're going to be 4.4% over what you're paying today for the full insured plan, as opposed to with the renewal of the full insured plan, you're 6%. Are you following me there? So being self-insured is a decision based on, you know, it's basically trespassing the risk from us, or part of the risk, or most of the risk, from Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas to the county. So with the advantage that if the claims are at the expected level or under, you know, it could be that they could come under, you get to keep that money. If they go over, you know, you are going to pay up to that maximum expected maximum funding. So you may, you know, pay 20% more than, or spend 20% more than what you're spending today. So with that, I thought I would bring it up. I have a couple other options, but those are even higher. So really, you know, if you are comfortable with a 6%, again, 6% is 6%. Now that is not out of the average that we had seen lately on renewal. So that is something that I always say, you know, we are given the market, the health industry the way it is today, we should probably just about always be expecting between a 6 and 10% increase, you know, on average. So if you're more comfortable taking, you know, that 6% increase and knowing that that's all you're going to pay. So it's hard for me to make a recommendation today because they are pretty close. Because yeah, if you're at the expected level of the claims or lower, you are going to save money. But you may not. If you are at the expected level, you're going to save 2 percentage points. So it's not maybe a whole lot. So the decision is yours.
Thanks.
Another advantage of the self-insured plan, though, is that there's, and I added that on there, is that there are rebates on the prescription drugs. Okay, so when we have agreements, you know, as an insurer, you know, we're with Express Scripts, which is the one that supplies all the mail-in prescription drugs. So we have agreements with these large pharmaceutical companies, or not the pharmaceutical companies, but pharmacies, and you know, they give us, you know, better prices for that, for the medication, so we get rebates on that. So on full insured, those rebates are not given back to the group. Those, we keep them and are part of, you know, help us, you know, with our operating expenses, and that's also why we can get to, you know, working with only 9% of the premiums to run the company. when you are self-insured, those premiums are returned, or those rebates are given back to you, 80% of those. We keep 20% of those for our expenses, and we give you back 80%. So I figure those projected rebates on here too, and that's what those two other lines says, when it says, they say less rebates. So if you were to meet, if you were to have, if your claims were to be at the projected or expected levels, you would be seeing, you know, discounting the, or discounting the rebates that we would return. We're looking at no increase. Now, if you go to the maximum funding, you know, if your claims go up, you would still be looking at a 20% increase in spending. Any questions on that? I don't wanna like bog you with too many numbers and. This annualized maximum amount that you would pay, how do you charge for that if you're same rates as what we would be? I mean, Well, that maximum funding is, and all these values that are here are composed of what you would be paying on claims, what you're paying on administration expenses, and on stop loss premiums, okay? The claims are being billed as they come in weekly.
Right.
So we you know, get a whole week's worth of claims and we bill them to you at the end of each week. The administration expenses and the stop loss premiums are billed monthly. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure if somebody went like that, how you have a piggy bank to cover it all.
Right, so, yeah.
So Randy, I think what you would do, like right now, in our budget, we have a line item for
Right.
health insurance in our employee benefits fund.
Right.
And we pay a monthly bill for the premiums out of that line item. If you transition to this kind of a plan, you would basically need to pay out that entire line item in one chunk, put it into a bank account, and then pay out of there, because they're gonna pay us weekly. So you'd have to basically, it would be, or we would have to pay those claims weekly, so that would be, I mean, you would take it from the same budget line item, but you're basically setting aside that whole amount because you're gonna have to cover claims and premiums. The premiums will be less than the premiums we pay today.
Because today you're paying, you know, $92,000 a month, you know, with renewal is gonna be about $98,000 a month, so that's all you need every month from there. When you're self-insured, you may have a month that you had $50,000 in claims only, but you may have another month that you may have $300,000 in claims.
So we gotta be able to cover it.
So you gotta be able to cover it.
Well, that's an issue, because if we think we could fund that, you know, say we could fund it with $1.5 million, what, you get into catastrophic claims, and all of a sudden you're way underfunded. Okay, where do we get the money from then?
Well,
General fund?
There's,
Well-
of course, then there's the stop loss.
Right,
Well, I
so
know it
remember
goes.
that there's a limit, so you're never gonna pay
You're
more
never gonna
than,
have
for
to get
instance, on this one, you're never gonna pay more than $1.3 million.
But then you still have to pay the premiums.
No, that's included in that. This is all total cost. So the numbers that I have here are claims, admin fees, and premiums, everything. So that is maximum funding that you would need for the year on this option, $1.3 million.
Tina, would
You're not gonna spend more than that.
Would you set the budget for the maximum amount?
Sure,
Yes.
sure,
So
Initially, yes.
the budget would have to be significantly higher.
absolutely.
Well, I mean, we do have, I'm sure I didn't look to see what we actually budgeted for health insurance. Jen, were you looking at it?
I was trying to find it. It looks like it's all tucked into each department.
So it's not tucked into the departments. I can get that for you. But we generally budget an increase in health insurance, and I don't remember what that increase was that we budgeted for. So I'll have that for you for next time.
Let's just take one of the 175,000, a claim like that. I was wondering what we actually have to do on that one.
Well,
You know,
30,000.
Yeah, but it's 30,000. Right, it's just one member, you're only gonna pay 30,000 for that, exactly. Now, how how groups do it is, yeah, you know, if you're new to fully to self-insured, like you would be if you decide to go this route, your first year, you're gonna have to fund it more heavily, you know, so you can decide if you have the $1.3 million to fund it or not, or less, or decide that level at which you're gonna fund it. The nice thing of this is that, okay, if your claims are not what we projected them to be and they're lower, then you have a cushion for next year, and then next year your funding, you know, goes down, and that way you keep for the year, say $1 million, you know, every year, and that would be, you know, but yeah, the first year is gonna be the heaviest, you know, funding you're gonna need.
And the numbers that we're looking at here don't account for what we withhold from employees either, because they're paying for part of
Correct.
theirs. So what we budgeted for the county portion for health and life insurance was 1.141 million for 2022. And what we budgeted the previous year was 980,000.
Do
So
you
we
have
did
a-
budget for an increase,
Do you have an average age? of the workforce?
1.141.
I don't think we have.
It's under the line that says health and
You know,
life
we've had a
insurance.
lot of retirements the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me look at the demographics here, because I have some demographics.
Our eyes are quicker.
Information here.
I was sitting there searching for it.
But that's really not gonna have any incident, I mean, it will,
Thank you.
if you assume, you know,
We
older
have less
folks,
heart
more
attacks and
claims.
cancer.
Huh?
Yeah.
You have less heart attacks and cancer. And
Right.
Younger work.
This one.
Right, that is correct.
1.26.
But, yeah, I
See
mean,
that
we have
outside.
assumed that. But I guess what I wanted to say is that
Right.
this is strictly based on claims, we
I
don't
know,
look at
right.
age and stuff, but yeah, of course, you know, the younger folks should be healthier.
Are you seeing
Does he know
any
that's
trends
going on?
that people are doing this, going to self-insured?
Yes, I've had in the last 6 months, I work with about 110 groups total. Of those, I probably have I have less than 20% that are self-insured. But that's because of the size, the group size, okay? Most of out of those 100, you know, more than 80% are groups in the, you know, I have groups of 15 people, 20, 50, 60, 70s. So when I see a group of 100, I always say, you know, I would probably set the line at maybe about 75. I have a self-insured group of about 27 people. That's tough, because you have one person, you know, with high claims, but they have been self-insured for a long time. So at this point, they're good where they're at. But when you're going self-insured, I would say, you know, 75 to 100 people at least, you know, then you're dispersing the risk, you know, among a good sized group. So that's why I don't have more than 20% of my groups that are self-insured, is because I don't have more than 20% of the groups that are 100 or more people, so. But I would say of the groups that are about 100 people or more, the majority of them are self-insured. Absolutely.
Tina, do you have any comments or input for us? Opening the door.
Oh, boy. Is there a certain time, when you, like, I would think that there would be an optimum time that you would be transitioning from one to the other. And I don't know that these numbers are far enough apart to where that would be the optimum time, but I think no matter what we do, it's doable on our side. It's just, this would be if we did transition, it would be a pretty big change, which is okay, but.
How much extra time would it cost here versus the way we do it?
Well, we would, it would basically be,
They're still managing
reviewing
it, right?
the weekly claims and paying every
Right,
week.
okay, exactly.
And that's something we don't do at
Okay.
all now.
Now,
And
the
then
way.
keeping track of that, another part is the financial part of keeping track of that. I'm
Okay.
sure we would have a separate bank account for this, we would have, to make sure that, the amounts going in and coming out are correct, and so that would create additional in that regard.
The way this is
Creating
paid
each
weekly,
one
to
yourself.
kind of address that a little bit really quick. The weekly claims, we set that up on ACH. So really you don't have to be, well, you have to have the money there, but of course you have to have the line and account for it and all of that as well. But you wouldn't have to be cutting a check to be paying every week. So we draft
But
it
we would want to
automatically.
be paying attention to it.
Right, because you get an invoice 2 days before we're gonna draft. So you get this, you get 2 days before that, we tell you this is the weekly claims, that's gonna be drafted, on Friday or whatever, or next Monday.
You'll get net 30 on
Huh?
it? You'll get net 30 on it?
Now you're talking like a business.
Jonah has a.
Yeah.
No, I could see this, I could see the transition in a few years from now. Say the interest rate went to 10-15%.
Higher interest rate.
Right? We got the cash on hand, therefore we could put it in a high interest savings or something. And you could make money off your money while the claims are what you would be. There's some benefits there, but right now I think that the atmosphere is tilted to stay with what we're at.
I mean, I think that we could manage it whichever way, and if there's a chance we can save money, that's great, but is it enough of a chance that you're willing to?
This
Flip the switch
is
on that.
literally close enough to roll the dice, and it's not.
It is pretty close, and we run that employee benefits fund really close on our budgeting generally, and so sometimes if we come in lower on health insurance, or paying more on capers, or we're doing, it kind of depends on what employees are working at the time, and things like that, and then our work comp, changes, so, we don't put in a whole lot of extra cushion into that fund. We try to run it really as close as we can and be efficient with what we're doing, but.
There was one other thing that I'm sort of going off of right now. What he said to start with is how many people are going to the doctor. I'm one of them, but I'm not, unless I'm down and out. That's the last time I'll go. I mean, just since COVID,
Well,
Did you go before?
well, yeah, if I had a problem, yeah, but not very much, but.
I never ever went, except for I got a tick bite, then I went.
But you're young
Everybody told me
I
that.
I think this is something we need to look at on a year-by-year basis, but
Yes.
I'm not in favor of going forward.
Yes, I'm on the same wavelength. I'd really like to look at it each year. I'm just kind of gauging the temperature. There's opportunity, there's risk.
Right.
And
Right.
the balance, this proposal, I see a little heavier on the risk side than gain at this point. But it's certainly something I think we should evaluate every year.
I definitely would recommend that.
And
Like
when
I
the
said,
time-
when. yeah.
Time may be right.
Mhm.
If we get more of these energy things online,
Mhm.
and money come in and steadily, right now, we don't know how much we'll get.
Right, and risk is not something we, at this point,
Yeah.
the program we're in right now is pretty secure. We
Mhm.
know our risk.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And like I said, starting it's pretty close today, really. So that's why I don't want to make a recommendation to tell you, yeah, I think, because if I really thought I would do it, I
Sure.
think this is my recommendation for you. Go
Right.
self-insured. This
Right.
is what I believe you should do. Today, with these numbers, it's pretty there. Yeah, you can go, you can save a little bit, and then you can spend. So it's really close to where we're at on the renewal. So I absolutely believe it's a good choice to be checking it every year. Every year.
And I
Because
don't-
I think, to us, as the insurer, as Blue Cross and Blue Shield, it doesn't make any difference if you're full insured or self-insured. We're collecting revenue from either stop loss premiums and admin fees, or on the full, because it's the same thing, because out of your full insured premiums, part of that is going to pay for the claims, part of that is going to run the company. So we just want, what we strive for is just to keep costs down all the time, so we wanna save everybody money. That's,
Very good.
but today is closed, so.
Then we move on with just taking what the raise is and move on.
I'm in favor of taking the 6% raise, 6 point, well, no, I'm in favor of going that direction. I'm not in favor of a 6%.
I'm more in favor of a 3%.
Perhaps you would accept the proposal?
I will make a motion to accept this proposal to continue on with Blue Cross and Blue Shield at a 6.43% increase.
The current plan.
The current plan, yeah.
We have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Gearing. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Profit. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried 5-0. Claudia, I want to thank you very much
Thank
for your
you.
time. and
I have one more
information.
thing here for
Okay,
you.
great.
So.
Our bonus.
Is it gonna cost more money?
Our bonus?
Oh, you would hope, right?
Okay.
Been
Is it gonna cost more money?
Well, I don't know.
We don't wanna hear
I
it.
don't know.
We don't wanna hear it.
On that tab 3, and we discussed this with Tina, and that's why I brought this, and I had sent it to her earlier too, so she would have it. I have a proposal on life insurance policy that we quoted to compare to what you currently have. And I don't know what you're, and I don't know if you have that handy, Tina, or not, on like what you currently are paying, or?
No, that's gonna be, have to be something that we can
Okay.
evaluate and put together.
Okay, so, we went ahead and quoted, other benefits that you currently have, which is a life policy that you have for every employee. And then we have a, short-term disability quote there that is on a voluntary basis, each employee that wants to take it, can take it. So, and I went ahead and quoted 2 options. Normally, we, the minimum amount we recommend on life policies is $25,000, because that helps pay for a funeral and maybe, a couple months of bills. Right now, you have a $5,000 policy for everybody that doesn't pay for a funeral. So I quoted both. I quoted $5,000. That way you can compare to what your current premium is on the policy that you have. And then I went ahead and quoted a $25,000 policy for everybody on there. So that would take, some looking and comparing for you guys to do, if it is something you.
And
would
evaluating
want to
whether whether we continue to offer this benefit or not, because right now, I don't even know if the commissioners are really aware, but we do have a $5,000 county paid life insurance policy for every employee. And it does go down, their coverage level goes down with a certain age,
Right.
when you reach a certain age.
65,
Mhm.
yeah, and 70.
And we've offered this forever, and the county pays for it. However, all full-time employees that are on capers, which the majority of our full-time people are, the only ones that can opt out of that are elected officials. Capers already has a built-in life insurance that the employee does not pay for, the county pays as part of our contribution. And so, there is the accidental death and dismembership portion of this. So I guess it's something to kind of evaluate, see if that's, I don't know that it's a high-level benefit for the employees, and it's not costing us very much money at $5,000, but it's also maybe not a big draw
It
or benefit.
reduces to almost 0, so I don't see the great benefit of it.
So what Claudio did here was he gave us another option, which is
It's just
45,000 in
reduced,
coverage.
it's same
but
for everybody.
It's just a
Well,
matter of
they-
determining whether the board thinks it's,
The 5,000.
There's also a reduction in all these group life policies, no matter really which, you get, there's a reduction at age 65.
Generally, get more money than I would.
It reduces at age.
I wouldn't get anything. I'd
30%.
probably be dead. It's a life
Well,
insurance.
right, his family.
Your family.
Correct, you are correct, his family. So, right, so there's a decrease of 35% at age 65 and then another 25 at age 70.
But discriminating against
but the-
old people.
Well, it's because, you know,
Because we're
that,
gonna die sooner.
because you're gonna die sooner, exactly.
The,
You're just higher risk.
If that's 65. and-
And just as a point
Oh,
of
okay.
background,
I'm looking at the wrong-
for the commission, we used to have this policy through Blue Cross, through Advance Insurance, for years. That's who carried this for us, as well as the disability, short-term disability coverage that we offer, which is an optional benefit. However, a few years back, they bumped the rates quite significantly on the short-term disability policy, and at that time, we did go to we have an insurance vendor that we utilize that offers all the voluntary benefits and the life benefit transferred at that time as well. So
Okay.
we have been providing it through a different vendor for the past several years.
Would it be worthwhile to compare it to,
Yeah.
do an analysis on that?
I think so.
She'll look into it.
Yeah. I know she will, so we will investigate it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
I
an
just wanted
option,
to
we
present
appreciate
it
it.
there for you to
Your 5,000.
again investigate. and-
Your 5,000 rate, take it times 5 is 810. So it actually, your quotes actually decrease in premium, the higher the amount.
Sure, which would be on any insurance.
Right, right, yeah, exactly. So we're charging, we basically rated based on $1,000 units. So we're charging, you know, for that 5,000 is 26 cents per thousand, for that 25,000 is 22 cents per thousand.
What would
So-
you be at if we did like 15,000?
I would probably somewhere in between there, you know, in between the 26 and 22, so probably, you know, 20 and 24 maybe,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an option.
Okay? Anything else I can help you with?
Where do we send our letter in of discrimination? Because I'm just now approaching the 70 mark. I didn't realize that this,
You didn't realize
I
that.
didn't realize that I was getting discriminated against like this, so.
Well, those are just the rules of rating is, yeah. You know, the older we get, the higher the rating on us is. It's kind of the same that with your vehicles, you know, the more claims you have, you know, the more times you wreck it, your premium, your car premium, you know, insurance premium will go up, so. Very true. All right, well, there's a lot of additional information on there too, but, you know, if you guys want to look for it.
About all this.
There's a lot of services, and I discussed this with Tina, you know, and we can have employee meetings if you want to look at, well, last time we didn't have a whole lot of people come in. There's an array of resources that we always have available for every member that are included all within the premiums that are paid, so it's all on there, you know, and we try to do a lot of wellness to keep people healthy and all that kind of stuff, so there's a lot of materials that you can review there. There's the annual report, and that will tell you what we're doing with your monies too, so how we're managing your premiums, monies that we take in every month, so.
Did you probably brought one of those for Cherry, is that right?
Oh, yes, yes.
I could take that for her.
Yeah.
She's not
Yeah.
here
Let
today,
me-
so
yeah,
she would have
I'll leave
been.
it with you here, yeah. Thank you.
I got a nice balance.
I see that.
Pretty soon there's not gonna be sunlight.
I don't know why she's spending money on this window, it's just gonna be a briefcase here. but-
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, again. Good to
Thank
see
you.
you all.
Yes.
Stay healthy and.
Thank you, Claudia, we appreciate the
All right.
information and the
Good
options.
advice. Stay healthy. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
So Tina, I would just need from you then later that signed renewal and
Yep, we'll get
you're good to
it.
go.
Yep, it may be our next meeting when we take care of that.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good. All right, thank you much.
Yep.
See
Thank
all.
you.
Bye.
All right, we're ready for family and communities together?
45 minutes,
Five minutes.
Oh.
I'm Terry Biebermeyer from Families and Communities Together, and I'll just give you some information here.
Thank you.
We appreciate you being with us today.
Well, thank you for the invitation. In the packet I gave you, there's a couple of brochures. One is fact. One is our early childhood block grant program. It takes a village. And then we have the annual report for FACT there as well, and then the special alcohol tax fund explanation of where that money has gone this year. The programs that FACT, I'll just run through those right quick in case anybody doesn't know. The programs that we cover we're the 501c3 for are the Early Childhood Task Force, the Family Financial Assistance Network, Marion County Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition, the Marion County Dolly Parton Imagination Library, the Resource and Referral Program that puts out we're the ones responsible for putting out the Marion County Resource Directory that you'll see throughout the county. And then also that It Takes a Village Early Childhood Block Grant Program Collaborative. If you're looking at the annual report, I'll just highlight some of the things on it. This year in 2021, FACT received $209,895 in grants. All of these grants go to different programs or assigned to different programs and are used for those. In looking at the FACT financials on the back of the page, you'll see that it kind of indicates at the moment that we are in the negative. But that is because for the state grants that we get through Kansas Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund, and then also Kansas Disabilities and Aging Programs, which is what funds our SAPC, Substance Abuse Coalition grant. Those come on a monthly basis of reimbursement. So at the time that this was published, we have not received all of the grant refunds at that point. So FACT has a new, it's still the same website URL, but it is all revamped. It hasn't been for years and years. So we've gotten that all done, and it lists all of our programs. It has on there links to all of the different, like if someone wants to apply for alcohol tax funds requests, then that form is on there that they can fill out online and send it to us. If a family needs emergency help through the Family Financial Assistance Program, that form is online so that they can access it. Also, they can still call, and we'll still help them, of course, with filling out the forms or whatever they need. But they do have access now to those. The Dolly Parton is also, the registration form is on there online as well. So we're excited to have our new website and that it's up to date and that we can continually add and update things on. In the It Takes a Village, the Early Childhood Block Grant, you'll see maybe that we have, through this last year, we have screened or conducted over 1,400 screenings of children that are 5 years old or younger in preparation to get them ready for school. So in order to identify any delays that they may have, either social, emotional, or developmental delays that they might have, so that we can address those before they ever get to the school age, and so that it'll be an easy transition when they do get to school age and stuff. That's what the Early Childhood Block Grant is all about, is getting children ready both emotionally, mentally, and behaviorally. Okay? So we have done all of those developmental screenings and everything, and we've dealt or are working with over 235 preschool kids, everything from newborns to up to age 5, and daycare children as well as preschool classrooms. As of December 31st, there were 314 Marion County children enrolled in the Dolly Parton Library. 70 have already graduated from that program. They graduate when they turn age 6. So once they are over the age of 5, they're no longer eligible. If you're not familiar, the Dolly Parton Library, Imagination Library program is free books that come one new every month to any child that is enrolled in the program. It is literacy enhancements. The idea is to get parents to read with their children and spend time with their children in the reading, and so it's a free books that they receive. However, for us, it is we pay $25 per child per year, and so we've had in the past partnerships that have helped with that, but those partnership monies have run out. So now we're in the process of working to develop other programs, or not programs, but partnerships and donations and stuff to help cover the $25 per kid per year to continue the program. Any questions so far before I start talking about the two big grants that we have?
Yeah, go for the big ones.
Okay, the early childhood block grant, which is It Takes a Village. We're about halfway through, well, just over halfway through now, the second year of that. We have already reapplied for the renewal, which the deadline for that was December 20th. We won't hear back until April sometime whether we get the renewal. For that, we're hoping and expecting that we will get the renewal on it. With the ITAB, we work with the preschools and the daycares and various, we work with, all of the, on the brochure it lists all of the different agencies in Marion County that we work with: Prairie View, Parents as Teachers, Marion County Special Ed Co-op, a number of them. But in there we have 9 separate staff members that we have contracted through the program to help. And then the collaborative schools, there are all 5 school districts involved with their preschools, 14 preschool and Head Start classes that are involved, including 7 daycare sites and 1 daycare center in the program. We serve all children that we can. Sometimes parents don't want to register the children in the program because they're afraid of government interference or that type of thing. Everything that we do, any data that we enter online is kept confidential. We don't put names in there. So, but some families are still just skeptical. So, but for the most part, we serve as many of the children under age 5 as possible. We work also to help parents with their family systems. We do that through parent classes that we offer, parent education classes, as well as also we have a home visitor program where one of our staff members goes to the homes of when we hear that a family is expecting a new baby or has just had a baby. So they go and explain all of the process of and all of the free services that they can receive through the grant from Marion County agencies and all of that type of thing. We also have parent cafe support groups. So all of those are the things that we're dealing with the Early Childhood Block Grant. The Substance Abuse Prevention Planning Grant, actually it's an implementation grant now. We're in the implementation year, second year of it. And we, in that we have three major programs that we are running through. We have the Strengthening Families Education Program. The second one is the LEAD program, Law Enforcement Against Drugs, and we go into all 5 Marion County school districts, and the officers that are trained in the LEAD program, then they educate, do drug awareness education with the 5th graders. We're hoping to expand that as we go, but right now we have 2 officers that are dealing right now with the 5th grade. This has kind of replaced the DARE program. I don't know if you're familiar with the DARE program. The DARE program was great, however, with state involvement, with grants and things, they want evidence-based programs. DARE was not an evidence-based program, so we have replaced it with the LEAD program, which is an same type of thing. This one is just evidence-based. It's the LEAD program uses Too Good for Drugs curriculum, and so that is what is the evidence-based part of it. The third program that we use is the It Matters campaign. That is, if you drive along certain roads, you'll see billboards from SAPSI. In fact, those are through the It Matters campaign. The one talks about party favors and it's handcuffs. The other one talks about on west of Hillsborough, it is a billboard that's been up for a couple of years now that says that drunk teenagers are teenagers' biggest enemies or something, something like that. So anyway, we have billboards where we may see about, we have money to do more billboards as the years progress, and so those are the 3 areas of concentration in the SAPSI grant. Any other questions or any questions at this point?
What's your total budget altogether, everything together?
For FACT or?
For your whole program? FACT has 209,000 and then.
$238,190.
209 is the grant, early childhood block grants.
Grants.
Yeah. The whole FACT, I'm sorry, I can't tell you what that offhand is.
Well, I think on the back, up here on the financials,
The one that shows
That
you
tells
upside
the-
down.
Yeah.
I think you're wanting maybe to know, Randy,
No,
where all the funding comes
dollar-wise,
in,
upside
and
down
then
dollar.
what they're spending on.
So
Yeah.
it
Is that
basically
right?
tells you what your budget was for the year.
It's up in the,
That doesn't, I don't think
Says total
that tells
expenses.
us really what, that is from Tamara, who is the financial manager for FACT. But I don't think, we're not in the red as far as the whole program goes.
Right.
But I don't know the figure right offhand, because we have a number of things that are involved, such as the toy run. We get money from the toy run every year, donations from it. There are a number of things that are on there. I think she just, for the year, what that is just the expenditures and the income for the last year.
so what you're missing is the beginning cash balance and ending cash balance.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And then administrative expenses,
And
it
your
says general expenses, is that
retained
administrative?
And your-
Yes.
Carrying
yes,
over.
Yes. Yes.
And they could probably provide the actual financials if you.
Yes, yeah, it's not a problem, we just, it's a long list
Yes.
to put it on this, it's,
Well,
we have them, Tamara does the financial report every month at the FACT board meeting, and so if you want, I can send that to you. And
Well, I'd just like to see the administrative expense, because there's some things out there that administrative gets way above where it should be.
Right.
And
I can tell you, like Tamara is paid through the FACT. My salary, 75% of my salary comes from grants, either the early childhood block grant or the substance abuse grant. As long as we have those, that pays mine. That's when we got those grants. That's when I went to full-time. Otherwise, I was just part-time. Because once those came, it takes me full-time to get it all done.
Well, I want to applaud you for the work you've done.
Well, thank you.
That, what we can do at that age for our youth molds them the rest of their life. And so it's very critical, the work you do, and appreciate it.
The alcohol report here is here for you. It tells you the 4 different checks that we got through the different quarters, and then where that money has gone through the, this year we've, in 2021, actually we spent more money than what we got in because of, if you look, it'll show the high school programs after prom parties and what we do every year for each of the 5 school districts. The alcohol tax, we give each school $500 toward their after prom party. Well, this looks like we actually did 2 sets of $500 or $1,000 for each school this year, because we didn't pay out last year's until April, because we weren't sure whether they were going to have problems or not with the COVID and stuff. So we have 2 sets of the $500. The second one we've already paid for this year in November. So that's why it looks like we have spent more than what we had.
Do you have a beginning and ending balance of the special alcohol funds too that could be provided?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the board probably would like to see the total picture of the financial.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, I double what Dave says up there, you know. The younger the kids we try to affect, the better that was to me. If you wait till they're out of school.
Kind of lost in the cracks at
Yes.
times, yeah. Yes. And we have been given your support in the past, and we appreciate that so much. It helps with our general budget and everything. And so I sent a request letter already earlier.
You know, I don't believe you did. You wanted to hear the report first and see the financial amounts. I mean, you have, that was one of the ones I thought you tabled.
We'll
I'll
double
have to
check.
look.
We'll double check, but it certainly have our support.
Oh, thank you.
Money's coming.
Thanks. Do you have?
For some reason, I thought Prairie View was the one we did.
Do what?
We're
Okay.
Yeah, I'll double
We'll
check,
double
but I
check.
believe you tabled it until you had some financial information.
Okay.
Because it's been a while since the
Yes,
board
we
has
didn't
heard from
report
you.
last year, I don't think.
What was the allocation?
6,000.
6,000, right?
Is the amount that we have been.
6,000 is what we got in my budget. I just looked at.
Yeah, we budgeted that.
Right, but I don't believe that you've taken action to approve the allocation yet.
Okay.
Anything else that you, yes?
No, I don't have.
Thank
Anything
you.
else that you need from me? I will send those to Tina,
Great.
what you're asking for, and anything else that you want, let me know. We would love to have any of you on the SAPSI coalition, members of that coalition. So if any of you are interested in being a part of that, let me know, please, or if you want to join, just set in on a meeting anytime, and you're welcome, more than welcome to do that, so.
Thank you for that invitation. Again, we appreciate all the work you do.
Well, thank you.
And thanks for coming in today to inform us. It's very enlightening, and we need to be
Absolutely.
reminded of the work you do.
Thank you. Anytime you want me or have questions, let me know.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Did you hear anything from Russ?
No.
So I'm going to do the dangerous thing and assume that the other bidder did not want to be here for the decision. So I guess I would move into the discussion about the crack seal project bids that we opened this morning. There were 2 bids, about $6,000 apart. The recommendation from the county engineer was to approve the low bid. Were there any other questions that commissioners wanted answered? If not, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the bid, low bid of Payment Pros, I believe that's what, the amount of $56,568.95, if I've got it correct.
Very good. We have a motion from Commissioner Becker. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Crowfoot. Any other discussion?
No, I'll leave it alone.
All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. Motion carried 5-0. We want to thank both companies for submitting bids. We couldn't do it without 2 bids. It's very important to have that competition. We appreciate the time both of them put into that. All right. We had on our agenda an executive session with the treasurer.
And I think that Commissioner Dalkey had asked for one just.
After that.
Okay,
So,
whichever one you
wanna
want to
do
do
the one?
first.
Let's see if Susan's available, and if she's not,
Yeah.
Okay, I'll
let's
check.
see if Susan's available.
She's coming over. I don't know which way she's coming. She didn't follow me, so hopefully she's coming up.
Come in the front door.
Yeah.
Hi, Susan. Okay, you would like an executive session for
personnel.
Personnel performance.
5 minutes, I think. What do you think, 10, 5? Okay.
for sure.
I think
You want me to say it, Tim?
she's pretty on point, so
Yeah.
then we sit
Yeah.
around waiting for a while. if we-
Brad's not here.
No, Brad's not here. I didn't say that.
Okay, well, they need to make their motion and actually go into session, so
Right.
just a second.
So I move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss personnel matters pursuant to KSA 75-4319B for item 1, personnel matters and non-elected personnel performance with the commission, Tina, Susan, for 5 minutes. We will go in at 2:13 according to my phone. We'll come out at 2:18.
Second.
Second by Jonah. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carried 5-0. We'll be back in 5 minutes, 2:18.
Okay, let me get everything shut down here.
You're muted.
Everything's a little delayed.
Yeah.
I pressed the buttons and it's really delayed today, so.
Well, this morning it was really delayed.
Yeah.
Like, it was a minute or two delayed.
Yeah.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, we're out of executive session. No decisions made. I hadn't checked my phone, but we had a text from the county engineer that the second bidder did not want to attend.
Oh, good.
So we
Yay.
proceeded appropriately. We had a request from Commissioner Dalkey for an executive session.
Yeah, for 10 minutes for personnel performance,
Okay,
with the board only.
okay. I move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss personnel performance pursuant to KSA 75-4319B for item 1, personnel matters and non-elected personnel performance with the commission for 10 minutes from 2:22 to 2:32.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dolphy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried 5-0.
It's all over the track, they wanna put them all down at the baseball field.
I mean, I think it'd be a great thing if they can get it done, because there's nothing like it anywhere anymore, just because of
This
liability.
conference will now be recorded.
Well, that's bad.
We are out of executive session, no decisions made. I guess we've stood up public forum, there's no one here. I don't believe there's anyone online. If they do, would like to make a move, or would like to make a comment?
No, there is none.
Okay. With that, we'll move into commission comments.
I don't know where, I just talked to a Butler County employee Saturday night, Road and Bridge employee, and got some feedback from what their county did for this extra money towards employees. It's, you know, they did some vacation, and then they did some payments, so it was sort of neat to hear what another county had done, and wasn't outlandish, but it was fairly reasonable. And so, you know, maybe if any of the rest of you talk to somebody at other counties that's doing something like that, well, maybe we can sort of help Tina whenever she brings back, and we can see where we fall in with the rest of the counties.
They give them extra days vacation,
Yeah, they did, yeah.
which didn't cost any money.
It didn't cost them too much money.
It ain't cost them right now.
Yeah. So anyway, that was I was just neat to hear what another county did. That county employee that I talked to was very appreciative of it.
Mhm.
So,
Very good. Any other commission comments? If not, our next commission meeting will be Tuesday, February 22nd at 12:30. Because of the holiday on Monday.
Sorry, I was just looking to see what else was on.
That's good. I just want to make sure people online know that that'll be our next meeting, will be on Tuesday, the 22nd, 12:30. The following week is February 28th, which is payday. So we will meet at 9 a.m. on the 28th for payday. We may do some more work session work.
Policy work session.
Some policy work session, and then get into commission business.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion from John to adjourn.
Second.
What's next?
Second by Kent. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carried 5-0.